Alrighty, next episode, and we finally thought of a name for this show. Let's talk about movies we own. Uh, we're talking about animated movies, are the movie animated movies we own on DVD, and it's me, Stitch993, along with my wife here, Shelby.
Hi.
And so we're just gonna go down the list. These are in alphabetical order. So the first one is Nine. So I told this story in my tickets and my tickets video, and I'll say it again here. Movie came out on September 9th, 2009, which would be a Wednesday. Now, normally growing up, we would watch movies on the weekend. Me and my dad, we go to the local theater. But because this was one of the movies that had a very interesting release date, I basically talked him into watching a movie on the middle of a week in the week, school week, work week. It was a blast. I love the visuals. I know it's based off of a short film. I've seen the short film maybe once, and I don't recall it, though it has basically the same animation style. And I remember that it was at like some film festival, and Tim Burton saw it and decided, hey, I'll produce a full feature version. And so the same director came on, and we got Elijah Wood and a whole bunch of other people to make up the cast, and it's really dark. Has a very, I don't know, not I guess bittersweet ending, but overall it's a great dark animated film, and we don't really see a lot of films like this either then or even now as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's a really unique movie. I remember really enjoying it when we watched it. I do remember getting really upset when the twins died. Like, that upset me a lot. If you haven't seen the movie, sorry, just spoiled that for you. It really tugs at you while you're watching it. It does get really dark. It's a kind of a good intro for kids to dark movies to see if they're going to be into something like that before you dive off the deep end and show them something completely inappropriate.
Yeah. All right, I'll let you go with the next one.
Okay, so the animated Addams Family. This one is a little special for me because we saw it with our nephew. We took him to see it for his birthday. It was really cute. I will say it kind of felt like whoever made the movie, though, saw the Broadway show and went, we're going to do that, but when she's still young.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just waiting for someone to start singing One Normal Night.
Yeah, I agree. It was a really fun movie. And I remember the controversy out when the trailers came out is that they all looked ugly because everybody's at that time Wednesday had not come out yet, but people were still basing their thoughts on the 90s movies where it's got everybody that as the Addams Family. And they're like, oh, they look so ugly. But the thing is, the Addams Family series as a whole is based on I believe it's the New Yorker, one panel comic strip show. And so they're supposed to look kind of ugly-ish, which was fine. I liked that they stuck closer to the original material when it came to looks. Animation-wise, it's not the best, especially with the time that this movie came out, which was 2019, 2018.
Yeah, 2019.
I feel like it could have done a lot better in the animation, because this does look like one of those films that would have come out like in 2006 through 2008, where it's really smooth, like just a company starting to get into animation and is has enough of a know-how and team to make a feature-length movie, but they haven't really gotten textures down yet. So everything is either really blocky or really smooth and really round. So yeah. So the next movie is Akira. It's a classic. It's not gonna be for everyone, and even I have a hard time getting into the movie at first because it is kind of a weirdly paced movie, and it takes, at least for me, it takes a couple times to really understand what's going on with the plot and what it's trying to say, and all the characters and everything. But it is a really nicely animated movie, of course, and it's got, of course, like the famous motorcycle skid scene that practically every movie for the past couple decades from the directors that grew up with the watching Akira are trying to replicate. The most recent being Nope did it as well. I know you were not a fan of this movie.
I'm not. For me, it was way too violent. I could not get into it. I was uncomfortable pretty much the entire time watching it.
Yeah, and I think that's supposed to be kind of what it's meant to be, is making you uncomfortable. Speaking of uncomfortable...
Okay, so... How do you say this dude's name again?
I pronounce it Jan Svankmajer. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation of it, but that's just how the movie is just called Alice, but...
Yeah, I did not like this.
I know.
It's weird. It's really weird stop motion. The imagery is really creepy and really disturbing, and please don't ever make me watch this again.
And that's the exact reason why I love it, because it is so disturbing, the way that he uses stuff like taxidermy and, found objects, and everything is grotesquely used. Like, he uses like dead animals, like the tongues and stuff that you like buy at a meat shop, and slabs. He uses slabs of meat and porcelain dolls and all that kind of stuff to tell the story of Alice in Wonderland. And it's Alice in Wonderland. It's nothing different than that. It's the way it looks, which I just love that type of animation there.
And I can't watch it, period, if we're going to be eating, because it's disgusting.
It's amazing screw-on head. So this is, I guess, more so... It's not really a movie. It's a pilot for a failed series. I forget what company it was supposed to be for. I want to say HBO, but don't hold me to that. But it is Paul Giamatti, based off of a comic book where it is kind of this robot type creature is kind of around this same line as Hellboy, where it's like going to the underworld and feeding all these type of creatures, and then you've got weird people showing up like zombie Abe Lincoln and a dog that cannot die as like people that he works with. It's like an underground government almost type of thing there, and of course it ends on a freaking cliffhanger because it was supposed to be picked up for a show. It just never did. I would love to see either the show eventually get picked up, because streaming companies are all about pulling old failed shows and trying to reboot them, or if they want to make a film, same thing. I wouldn't mind either way. The animation style is what is really cool, because it tries to be as close to the comic book as possible with the dark shadows and almost, for some scenes, monochromatic colors. I know I introduced you to this pretty recently, so I know you don't remember much of it.
Yeah, it didn't stick with me. It's not something super memorable for me. I do remember enjoying the art style, and I got really attached to the dog. So, every time the dog was on screen, that's all I cared about, and anytime the dog looked like he was in danger, I was worried.
And then you found out that, the dog can't die.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Alright, so next is going to be double feature film, so... American Tail and American Tail 2, Fievel Goes West. I like Fievel Goes West better, probably because I grew up with it more. I feel like I did watch the original growing up. I always felt it was pretty slow. So it didn't, keep my attention as much as the Wild West one did. I feel like the Wild West one was a lot more comedic as well, whereas the original was kind of dark for a Don Bluth movie.
And see, I prefer the first one because, one, I don't like Westerns.
Fair enough.
In any form, I'm not a Western fan. But also, I really like the sincerity that is in the first one. Also, the end credit version of Somewhere Out There is gorgeous. During the movie version is a little nails on chalkboard, but it's supposed to be two little kids, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Next one is Animusic. So this is technically not a movie, it's just a DVD that I own. So for those who are not aware, Animusic is a full CGI music video series. Most of y'all probably will recognize. I'll show a little clip here. Yeah, that's Animusic. They did a lot of them. So if you watched any of those, that's the series name. It's called Animusic. So this collection is volume 1. There's 2 volumes, and this includes that video as well as the first, I think, 8 to 10 music videos that they created. And the music has a bunch of different varieties, mostly techno, but you also get some rock, some jazz, some, I don't know what you would consider it, tubular type of music, very just kind of ambiance stuff, and it's all really well animated, and the ways that they have the musical instruments being played is really, really creative, even for nowadays. This started, I believe, that got popular, on the early days of YouTube back in 2006, 2007, but I believe the animation and stuff is actually older than that, around 2003, maybe 04 or 05. You haven't really, outside of the main one that I showed a clip to, you haven't really watched it, so I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one.
I don't really have any thoughts other than I'd probably fall asleep to it.
Fair enough. It is very, for the most part, very calm music. So the next one, I'm gonna say my words on it because it's gonna be a lot shorter than you, of course.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up with this movie. I did have some of the Burger King toys, especially the train set, and my sister had the dog plush. I didn't watch it until you showed it to me. Of course, I knew of In the Dark of the Night long before I ever watched the movie, so I do enjoy that song. And go.
Okay, so this one is Anastasia. It is my absolute favorite movie of all time. We've already discussed this, and we're going to be discussing this in our animated movies for the past 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I literally grew up on this movie. I had the VHS, which I watched so much that I wore it out. Then I had 2 different copies of the DVD that I watched so much that I ruined the DVDs. We watch this every year at Christmas. It is our transition from Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. I have a collection of the dolls and the Burger King toys. I've got a little Puka plush somewhere over there and his little ears flap. It's so cute.
And for Christmas, I got you the special edition VHS that comes with a autograph copy of the script by the 2 directors, Don Bluth, and I forgot the other guy.
It's the second best Christmas gift you ever gave me. The first one is the music box.
Okay.
He
Which
got
was
me the
also an
music box.
The Anastasia music box. Yep.
So yeah, I've grown up with this movie. I know the whole thing from start to finish. I do the same thing with this movie that he does with Toy Story. I just mumble the words right along with the movie until I get to some of my favorite lines, and then I just say it at full volume, and he chuckles every time. My personal favorite song in there is Journey to the Past.
That's a good song.
So good. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
The stage show version of it is even great. I know you have issues with the stage show because there's no Rasputin.
There's no Rasputin. They changed a lot of the plot to make it more realistic. I get it. You can't really do a lot of bugs dancing around for a Broadway show and not be considered silly looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very pretty Broadway show.
It's so pretty, and the original Broadway cast for it is fantastic. Then again, you put Ramin Karimloo and Derek Klena in anything, and I'm going to watch it.
Fair enough. Next one, we have this. We've had it for a couple years. I still haven't gotten around to seeing it. I remember it being advertised at like Christian bookstores back when it came out. I don't have any information. Neither do you.
I don't. I don't even know why we have it.
Well, it was given as a gift, and I always try to at least watch it once before I decide if I want to keep it or not.
So you just have it.
I still have it. The next one, Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, based on the comic of the same name. This is an awesome film. This came out, I believe, in 2019, and it's an animated feature film. It was a straight to DVD, straight to Blu-ray movie, where you've got the Ninja Turtles. Originally, the title is kind of misleading. So the Ninja Turtles are in Gotham trying to thwart what they don't know is Joker's plan, because there's a new ooze chemical that has been stolen. They track it to Gotham, and there's April, and of course that tells them where to go. So then the Ninja Turtles, they find Batman. Batman, of course, because of all the villains he's come upon, he thinks the Ninja Turtles are just a new villain. So they do fight for the one scene, and then they find out that they're on the same side, so they don't fight, and they join sides. And then you've got, this is one where we've got also Robin and Batgirl in it as well, which is awesome because we rarely see those characters show up in any sort of film. Usually they're either died off camera. They do ones where it's before or when they're just starting out, or the Batman and Batman and Batwoman hook up. Yeah, that was a weird movie. Anyways, so then we got the Joker using the ooze to transform all the main villains like Scarecrow and himself, Harley Quinn, and into actual anthropomorphized animals. And it's a really cool film. I know you're just not a fan of either one of those franchises.
I actually do enjoy Batman.
Okay.
I don't enjoy TMNT.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really liked it. It's never been something I've been able to get into. It's not my thing.
Fair enough. All right, Battle for Terra. Man, I like this film. Okay, so this is one of those mid-2000s movies where the animation is kind of in the...
It's bad.
I wouldn't say it's bad, but it definitely, for at least the alien characters and the human characters, leaves much to be desired as far as detail. But especially like the ships and the backgrounds and the nature and creatures of the Terra planet are awesome. It's basically Avatar meets Titan AE, with a little bit of actually, yeah, just Avatar with Titan AE, without the love plot. It's just the humans come across a planet. Earth has been destroyed, so they come across this planet, the name Terra. They find that it is inhabited with aliens, and that there's not an oxygen on that planet. So the humans are terraforming it, and then one of the humans finds out, oh, there's living species, we shouldn't be killing it, and then an all-out war kind of happens. And it's really pretty to look at. The story is kind of bland-ish, but I enjoyed it.
See, I'm not a huge fan of movies where the whole movie is basically just a battle. For me, that gets kind of boring unless it's done really well, and for me this wasn't really done really well. Like you said, the animation isn't the best. There's really no detail in the human characters or the alien characters.
There's detail in there's detail in like the ships and the houses and the buildings and literally everything else. The background, like the fauna and just like the other species that inhabit the world that are like the animals of that planet. That's where they put the budget into for some odd reason.
Yeah, you would think you'd want your actual characters to get some of that attention, right? And they didn't give any attention to them.
They didn't.
Also, you comparing it to Avatar and Titan AE, I'm not a big fan of those either. I know. Not the TV show Avatar. I love that. The movie Avatar.
James Cameron's
I'm not
Avatar.
interested.
Yeah. All right. So I'll let you start on the next one.
Okay, so it's the animated BFG, Big Friendly Giant. It's cute. It is really cute. The art style is adorable. It's really well done. It is older.
80s.
Yeah.
Or 80s or late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. I do prefer the live action one, but that's because it's the one I saw first.
Fair enough.
They're both really well done. The giant is adorable. It's Big Friendly Giant. If you enjoy Big Friendly Giant, you're gonna like it.
Yeah, I really enjoy the animation as well. This one does have some musical scenes in it, so if you're not into that, maybe just check out the live action Disney film. But I actually kind of prefer the original, or this version, more, just because it does get into that Roald Dahl darkness that Disney kind of shied away from, especially when it came to like the kidnapping and the giants and the dream about the giants eating the children and stuff. It played down the fart jokes. Like, yeah, one of the main things in there is the Whiz Pop drink that is basically just making you fart, but they really played that up in the Disney version a lot, and was, I don't know, really weird. But it's a very charming film. Book of Life. This is a really pretty film. I believe it's directed by the person that did El Tigre, which was a show that probably doesn't get as much love as other Cartoon Network shows do. I think he also did Mucha Lucha, but I could be wrong about Mucha Lucha.
I remember.
But it's definitely, you can definitely see the El Tigre. Or I'm sorry, it's El Tigre is not Cartoon Network. I believe it's Nickelodeon. But this has the whole character dies and goes to the underworld, the afterlife, and it's all done in this very detailed, almost like wooden blocks type of look to it, because it's a story being told by Love and Death.
I'm not sure if it's Love and Death,
but and of course it's almost like kind of a jukebox musical as well.
Yeah.
To a degree, and there's a love triangle, and so the I guess the B plot is kind of bland, but the main plot, which this came out before Coco, and yeah, a lot of people did make similarities to it, and I do see it, mainly the plot, as well as, I know they're both based off of Day of the Dead art style in general, but I mean the similarities for the afterlife, the underworld, whatever, do look really similar between the two films. And if I had to choose between this and Coco, I would choose this.
So, what sold me on wanting to see this was when the trailer came out and they show who all is voice acting in it. And it said Diego Luna was going to be voicing one of the main three. I've loved Diego Luna since I was like 13. He's one of my favorites. But yeah, I love that it's a jukebox musical. I actually am not bothered by the love triangle subplot, because it's not just two dudes who are into the same girl. They were all friends to start off with.
Yeah.
So it's almost kind of like one of those, like, you fell for your best friend, and she has to kind of decide which one she'd rather be with, which one suits her better. Her dad wants her with one. She wants to be with the other one. And it's really well done. And it doesn't bother me as much as a lot of other love triangles in movies do.
Bionicle Mass 4. This is basically kind of a reboot. So there was previously 3 other Bionicle movies that came out, of course, prior to this one. This one came out in 2009 and was around the time when Bionicle unfortunately was dying out as a series just in general. The toys weren't selling as well. They weren't really pushing merchandise like they used to. And they did this film. It's kind of a, getting the gang back together plus introducing the new characters that they were trying to introduce in the toy line. And then it ends on like kind of a cliffhanger ending, and it's really weird because then we never got a fifth film. And they have tried to bring back Bionicle at least once so far, and it didn't do well. I think they took it at the wrong time. I think if they waited just a couple more years because when the original toy line came out, it was mainly the younger millennials getting into the series. When they rebooted the series, a lot of that generation was either still in college or just starting out in the workforce and didn't have a lot of money to buy these figures, including myself. Like, this came out right after college and I was just starting out, was getting an actual job, so I didn't have any real spending money, so I bought like one figure and I had to save up for a couple months to get that one figure. So of course it died. If it had come out literally just a couple years later, I think it would have been much better, because then that's when a lot of those series were starting to get a lot of nostalgic back for them. So I still think if they went and rebooted it again today, I think it'd be a lot more successful. But going back to the film, it is really well animated. Of course, all the Bionicle films are really well animated. Honestly, they're one of the few direct-to-DVD CGI films for the 2000s that really aged well, just because of how well the Lego company did with animating them and how well the animation company they hired did it. I'm not sure if that company would be the ones to go on to help make like the Lego movie and stuff. I think that was a different animation company. But if it was the same animation company, definitely would recommend checking out all the Bionicle films, because that's kind of where their foot got planted when it came to telling stories with the Lego toy series.
I have absolutely nothing to say about this movie. I know you've shown it to me. I cannot tell you a single thing about it.
Fair enough. So Cameraman's Revenge is a collection of shorts by I believe he is a Russian animator, and he's considered, I forget his name, but he is considered like the grandfather of stop motion, and I believe people like Henry Selick and Tim Burton point to him as kind of inspirations for their art styles, and you can definitely see it, especially in the titular video of The Cameraman's Revenge. This guy, he liked doing kind of taxidermy type of stuff, but instead of like animals, he would use bugs, and it'd be dried out bugs that he would put little wire armatures on and animate them. And like, the animation is old. Like, this is like late 1800s up to like the 1940s, just to give you an idea of where in the timeline this is. So this is before a lot of stop motion. This is before Ray Harryhausen, and this is even before Disney. This is before King Kong. And for a while, people actually thought that he had trained bugs to do the things he did, because nobody had ever seen this before. He was really kind of, ahead of the curve when it came to that type of animation style, and really kind of set the bar for stop motion almost 100 years before we would get stuff like Coraline, like James and the Giant Peach, like all those other weird and grotesque type of animated films. The Cameraman's Revenge plot is it's actually kind of funny, because it's about this one beetle who finds out that his wife is cheating on him, and so he uses a camera to catch them in the act, and then he follows his wife and her lover to like a movie theater, and then he plays the captured footage, and so all of the bugdom sees this cheating wife and stuff, and it ends in a brawl. And a lot of films were kind of more adult centered, so there's definitely not like something really. I mean, you could show for kids, and I don't think kids would really understand what was going on, but it definitely was meant for adult audiences.
Yeah, I got issues with this whole thing. A taxidermy bugs. No. I just you showed it to me, and I despised you a little watching it. It took me a while to look at you and be like, yeah, I want to spend my life with him. Luckily, you showed that to me at the beginning of a relationship. That might have been a deal breaker.
All right. Castillo, I don't know if I've shown you this one. So
you haven't.
Yeah, okay. So this is a movie or like a couple episodes from a show, but I believe it's kind of like a stitched together episodes to where they made it a movie. But it's the plot is it's about it's like medieval times. It's stop motion, and there's a dragon. And for this one, there's a comet coming in, so everybody's panicking, and you've got people on both sides trying to use the panic population for their own good, and Castillo's there to try to keep everything from going haywire. It's really well animated, beautiful stop motion type of series. I don't know where it aired. I just kind of came upon the DVD one day at a Goodwill, and if it's stop motion, I'm going to check it out, no matter how weird or bad it is. And this one's actually pretty cute. I believe it is supposed to be like a children's show. So if you come across it, I believe the show is available to stream on Amazon. And you can probably check it out on YouTube as well. I would highly recommend checking it out. All right. Cat in the Hat. So this is the animated one. This is the one I grew up on. This is the only Cat in the Hat that I will acknowledge exists.
Same.
In regards to film. The DVD that I own also includes the Hoober Bloob Highway, which is not based off of a book. It is also a Dr. Seuss cartoon. Most of these Dr. Seuss cartoons would include one that was based off of a book, and one that was just kind of he did it because he had the idea, but he didn't want to write a book about it. So Hoober Bloob Highway is kind of like the beginning of Soul when he gets to heaven. So this is like, the kids, before they're born. And it's kind of just a sweet story about, this is what you could be when you grow up, or what will happen when you get to Earth, type of thing. So, and of course, the main Cat in the Hat story is, it's a classic. It's really well animated. It's basically page to page perfection there.
But yeah, the animated Cat in the Hat is the only Cat in the Hat that exists. Period. We don't know. It's the only one that exists. I remember watching it a lot in school. So pretty much every year when Dr. Seuss's birthday came around in elementary school, we had this whole big thing. You'd watch a few of his movies. And Cat in the Hat was always one of the ones that we watched. There was one year they tried to show us a live action one, and then the teacher turned it off in like 10 minutes.
I don't know if I'd show the live action one to children.
She hadn't pre-watched it. She just saw Cat in the Hat live action and put it on for us to watch, and then went, oh, this was a mistake, and took it out.
How that movie got a PG rating, I will never understand.
No.
Charlotte's Web. Alright, so the way I got introduced to this was just kind of my... we had just gotten a DVD player, and of course my dad had bought a couple movies, Pixar movies, but because they were coming out, but we didn't really have. This was before DVDs were like $5, $10. This is when you really had to pick and choose what movies you wanted to get on this format. So we were in, I believe it was Kmart, and we're just going down the DVD aisles, and we knew we were allowed to pick one movie. And we were in, of course, the family section, and my mom saw that Charlotte's Web had been put on DVD, and she asked us if we had ever seen it. We said no, so of course that's what the movie we picked out was. I've grown to enjoy it. I didn't really care for it as a kid because it is kind of a slow film and it does have a bittersweet ending. As an adult, and of course as like a teen, I really did get into the morals and the story that it was telling. And of course it's a very well animated film. The songs definitely get stuck in my head from time to time, but definitely would be one where it depends on the kid. You may get into it, they may not.
So yeah, I can't remember if I saw it first at school or on Cartoon Network. But I do remember Cartoon Network used to show it all the time. That's one of the ways that we watched it. We didn't own it. My mom's like, it comes on TV all the time and you guys are going to watch it in school. There's no point in buying it. So, yeah, we had say it a lot. I do remember really enjoying the music. I got really attached to Wilbur. I wanted a little baby pig. But my mom's like, we already have enough pets, you can't have a pig. So yeah, it's a really sweet movie. I didn't have the issue of thinking it was too slow when I was little. I was too distracted by the sweet little pig to think it was too slow.
My favorite character was always Templeton, though. He had that snark.
I do like the snark, but as much as I love snarky characters, cute little pig.
Fair enough.
Okay, so the next one is Coraline. It is a good movie. I can enjoy it. It does freak me out, though.
Fair enough. And I've forgotten. Have you read the book?
I have not.
Okay. So the book is even creepier. Like, if you've only ever seen the movie and think, wow, that's creepy. Oh, the book is much darker. The mice that are like in one or two scenes in the film play a much bigger role in the book and are much creepier because they talk.
Oh no.
But going to the film itself, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, it's Henry Selick, who, if you have heard of that name but you don't remember what it is, he's the one that actually is the director for Nightmare Before Christmas. He also just recently put out that Netflix movie that had Jordan Peele in it. I don't remember.
Is that the Wendell and Wild?
Wendell and Wild, thank you. That was his doing. He also directed and helped animate James and the Giant Peach afterwards. So Coraline is one of his babies. Of course, the book that it's based off of is by one of my favorite writers, Neil Gaiman, and that's probably my favorite book of his. And yeah, the plot is really dark. The animation is even darker style-wise. The creatures and stuff are really cool. It's got a really interesting art style that's different from really any of his other animated films, and I really do enjoy all the dark humor that comes up in the film as well. All right, Cubic. So this it's the search for Solex, but it's really just the first 3 episodes. It's really just the first 3 episodes of the show stitched together to make the film. And I grew up with the show. I love the show. It's one of my favorite kids WB shows. Of course, if you watch my channel, you know that I've reviewed almost all the figures. I'm still trying to find, as of the recording of this video, 4 figures to complete the collection. And as soon as I get those 4, I will review them. For those people that are waiting, it's just they're the more rare, expensive figures, so it's going to be a little harder to find them, unfortunately. But the show and the plot is a boy moves to a new town called Bubble Town where everybody has a robot, and the robots are really ingrained into society. Not only are they friends to the humans, but they also are in the factories, are in the food service. They're pretty much everywhere. And there is, of course, evil guy that wants to take over the robots and enslave them. And so that's where Solix comes in. Solix is kind of a power fuel for the robots, to where if used correctly can help them, but if used incorrectly can make them go haywire and turn on the humans. And so the animation is kind of weak. It was in the early 2000s and it was made for television, so it hasn't aged as well as some other shows from that era. But it is just a great show, and it's the first 3 episodes, so it's about the main kid getting Cubics, fixing him, finding out he can do all the transformations, getting making friends with Abby and Mong and Chip and the rest of the cast, becoming a part of the team that helps on repairing the robots, finding out about the villains. There's a scientist that's been kidnapped, so they got to go rescue him. And it ends with, to be continued, which is then you'd watch the show to find the rest of the series. But it's great. What are your thoughts?
I have no thoughts because I did not watch this one.
Did you ever watch the show?
No. So I was not really into a lot of animated shows growing up. I got into a good bit of Nickelodeon, and I got into some of the Disney shows, but I wasn't really big on Cartoon Network at all. Mm-hmm. I really was not into robots.
Fair enough. Daffy Duck's Quackbusters, I am surprised I have not shown this one to you.
I'm surprised I haven't seen it, because I really do enjoy Looney Tunes.
Right, so for those who've never seen it, it is along the lines of a lot of the Looney Tunes films that came out between the 70s and 90s, where what they would do was they would animate some new portions to make an overarching story, but then they'd stitch in some of the earlier episodes that would go along with it. So same thing with the Sylvester and Tweety Bird movie, the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner movie, all the Bugs Bunny movies, 1001, Rabbit Tales. So this is the same vein, only it is Ghostbusters, and the main character is Daffy Duck, basically being the Bill Murray character of the show. He hires on Porky Pig and Bugs to be the other 2 of the first 3 Ghostbusters. And so it is just about Daffy Duck trying to make a business, because in the beginning he gets the money to do the business by one of the shorts showing that he caused this guy to laugh right before, he caused this guy to laugh, and that was the reward, is you'd get a whole bunch of money if you can make this guy laugh before he died. So he did. The guy died. He gets all this money, but he has to use it wisely. He can't just spend it all, so he decides, I'll use this as a business. And then the rest of it is just kind of stitching together older Looney Tunes shorts that had monsters or ghosts and stuff in there to kind of fill out the movie. It is a great, fun little movie, and I would highly recommend checking it out. Dragon Hunter, that's another one. I've shown it to you. You said you've liked it. We watched a trailer. You don't remember this film.
I don't. It's not memorable at all.
Oh, it's very memorable for me. This was before How to Train Your Dragon came out, and I believe this was, I don't know which came first, the show or the movie. The show is a 3D CGI film, the movie is a 3D CGI film, while the show is a 2D show, and I believe it came on Cartoon Network. The show kind of has, in my opinion, like a similar art style as American Dragon, Drake Long, and Zhao Lin. So if you like that type of style, definitely check out the show. But the movie is about these dragon hunters, or these say they're dragon hunters. Really, they're just, swindlers that are trying to get money. But they come across this kingdom that is in really dire need of a dragon hunter, because there's not one but multiple dragons killing people left and right, and every knight that comes their way that tries to go and defeat these dragons dies. And so the two dragon hunters plus the princess plus the princess's animal that is basically like their version of Stitch from Lilo and Stitch all go on this journey to find the big bad dragon and along the way fight other dragons, and the swindlers eventually do become actual dragon hunters just because of how much they have to interact with these dragons. Really good. Again, this is mid-2000s animation. However, this one I feel looks a lot better than some of the other films that came out around this era. I showed you a trailer. What were your thoughts from what you saw in the trailer?
I mean, the trailer looked cute. I think part of my issue with it and why I don't remember it is I have seen How to Train Your Dragon, and I really enjoy it.
Fair enough.
So it's just like, I'll just rewatch How to Train Your Dragon if I want to watch a dragon movie.
Yeah. Epic.
Okay, I don't like Epic. I don't like the storyline of it. It feels kind of contrived. I know she's only in it for like 5 minutes, but I really don't like Beyonce as an actress. I like her music. I think she's wooden as an actress. Even through voice acting, it sounds dead to me. The whole girl gets, turned into like bug size to understand the plight of the bugs. I'm just like, you could just have empathy. You could just be a person with empathy.
Well, this isn't so much that she's being shrunk down to learn. She's shrunk down because she's trying to capture the little green or little leaf men, as the original book is called. And so they capture her and they shrink her down to size, and so she has to get back to the house, but she falls into this whole war that's going on between the leaf men, and basically it's blight, a personification of blight. And so she's in the middle of the battle there, and the animation is really cool. I do agree, some of the actors, it's really weird. They got a lot of singers to voice these. So they've got Beyonce's the Queen, who dies in like the first 5 minutes, and they've got Pitbull as Toad.
Yeah,
is very weird, and I forget, but I believe the Caterpillar is also voiced by another songwriter. So it's really interesting, that cast. They do capture the style of the book, because the book is by William Joyce, who's one of my favorite children's book authors. I really love his style of animation, and it was really well captured here. It is done by Epic, or not? It is done by Blue Sky Animation Studios back before they were bought out by Disney. So I believe you can check this movie out on Disney Plus.
Okay, before we get to the next one, I do also want to say something that's weird about Epic is they have all these musicians as actors in their movie, and it's not a musical.
It's not. We've got like 2 songs.
It makes no sense.
Yep.
Alright, so on to the next one. It's Extraordinary Tales. It is an animated anthology of the tales of Edgar Allan Poe. It's perfection. Watch it.
Yep, I've talked about this film twice already. Check out my top 10 Halloween video and also my top 10 underrated animated film episode, because I go into much detail in both of those. But yes, it is an anthology animated series or animated movie where it's all based off of Edgar Allan Poe's stories. It's the Tell the House of Usher, Telltale Heart, Pit and the Pendulum. One about a doctor, I can't remember his name right now, but it's about hypnosis and keeping somebody alive even after they've died through hypnosis. And the Red Mask of Death, I think that's the name of the title. And they're all done wonderfully. They're all animated differently. They're all directed by different directors, including Guillermo del Toro. They're all wonderfully narrated by big horror names,
Yes.
including Bela Lugosi, which is an older recording that he did back in like the 50s or 60s. So it's kind of hard to hear that one just because it's being played off of like a record. But it's a wonderful film, and it's all tied around. I think the Raven character is supposed to be
Yes.
Edgar Allan, but he's like he doesn't remember that he is, and
Yeah,
he's like trying to remember about his past love life.
What it seemed to me is that the Raven flying around is Poe, but the person who's narrating the in-between is supposed to be Lenore.
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Perfection.
It's one of Wes Anderson's best films, and I do enjoy Wes Anderson's films, but I believe this is probably one of his best films. Probably not the best, but it is in my top, 5, I guess. It's based on a Roald Dahl book, of course, about a fox, anthropomorphic fox, that is in a midlife crisis, and so he used to be just kind of a fox that was stealing from these 3 farmers, but he got out of it because he had a family, but because he's now in a midlife crisis, he wants to go back to doing that. And of course, it eventually involves the entire woodland animals because of his, crisis issues and stuff there.
Okay, so I do really enjoy Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's one of 2 Wes Anderson movies that I really enjoy because I'm not a huge fan of his. The other one is Grand Budapest Hotel. So this is a bit of an anomaly for me because I'm usually not a fan of movies where a big part of the plot is the fact that the main character thinks his way is best and really his way is worst.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get back to that later on in the list of an example of when I don't like that.
Right.
But I think it is a combination of, 1, the animation is gorgeous, 2, he's so pig-headed about it, but in a charming way that he
Right.
still doesn't fully learn his lesson by the end.
To be fair, it is George Clooney.
It is George Clooney. Which is weird because I also don't normally like George Clooney.
What's interesting is this is one of the few films that I don't mind Meryl Streep in.
I know. You usually can't stand Meryl
can.
Streep.
But it works.
this.
She works in this film.
You like this, and you tolerate her in Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah. Yes. Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. So, this is Final Fantasy in name only. Has nothing to do with any of the video games, and is one of the early movies of that motion capture stuff that we would eventually see become more prevalent in later films like Polar Express and Monster House to a degree, Beowulf. This was one of the first films to really do it and really do it right. The story is about, in the future, it's post-apocalyptic Earth. A meteorite has crashed to Earth, and the meteorite had not aliens, but spirits of aliens on it. and so they were going around destroying Earth. We find out that they're not meaning to do that. Like, they're not malicious. They're just animals on a new world, and they also don't know that they're dead. So what happens is, like, now all the society is in these giant bubbles to keep the spirits out. And the reason why is because if the spirit touches you, it literally devours your soul and it kills you. And so there is still the meteorite, and the show that it seems like the meteorite is growing with power. So of course some of the upper military people want to destroy it, but the scientists, along with the main character, is saying, no, if we destroy it, this might have worser effects on Earth than what's going on right now. We should probably just learn to live with it. She's also at the same time having these dreams of what caused the meteorite to fall to Earth and the war that was going on between these creatures beforehand. So she's a bit more understanding of their fear of it, and and then it goes on from there. What was really interesting that I found out later about this film is, like, Hollywood really tried to push this being the next big thing in film, like not just motion capture, but like the characters themselves being the actor. Like, the character from the main female character from this was on like covers of magazines and stuff, and like having fake interviews and stuff about her next film projects. It was a really weird time for this for Hollywood and media and this. I believe you don't really recall watching this film.
I don't remember anything about the plot, but I do remember when we watched it.
Okay.
Because you thought it'd be a great idea to put this on when I got off of a 10-hour shift doing retail.
Ah, true. It was movie night.
It was movie night, but all I wanted was a hot bath and some dinner and a nap.
Fair enough. Ghost in the Shell, the animated version. Of course, this is based off the manga, the same vein. I don't know how much of the manga it follows. I believe there's actually a couple Ghost in the Shell movies after this, but this is the first one, and it's the most memorable. It's a classic in many areas. If you haven't checked it out, I'd highly recommend checking it out. I think it's really cool with the cybernetics, and just in the future what they are able to do with the technology. And also it dwells upon that, are you still human if all that's human on you is like little bits of pieces of you? So it really dives into that. Your thoughts?
Okay, so I just remember being really uncomfortable watching this one, which might have been some of the point.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, if you're going to watch an adaptation of Ghost in the Shell, watch this one. Don't watch the live action one.
Fair enough.
Stick to this one. It's just not my thing, but I'm also noticing I'm just not into those kinds of movies.
Fair enough.
Okay, so Green Eggs and Ham. I remember one particular year in elementary school, we had the choice between Green Eggs and Ham and the Lorax. It's Dr. Seuss's birthday. We were doing the whole, watch some of his movies. And our teacher actually made, like, with food diet and actual food, green eggs and ham for us and brought it in for us to eat. So we're just like, well, if we already got the food, we might as well watch Green Eggs and Ham. And it was really cute. I remember really enjoying it. I do remember getting some of the dialogue stuck in my head for like a week and just annoying everybody.
He doesn't like green eggs and ham. Also, it's I don't even think he ever has a name, but the character that says no, he will not eat green eggs and ham, I believe that's either voiced by Paul Winchell or the other Disney dude, because he's Tigger. It's Tigger's voice, and he even does the hoo 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 at the end when he finally gets to taste green eggs and ham. It
Yeah.
was first time watching it, I'm like, wait a second. I know that voice.
It's Tigger.
It's Tigger. Yeah, great. Again, this is just like Cat in the Hat, where it follows the book to a T. Animation is wonderful. I believe this was done in like the 60s or 70s when they were doing pretty much all his big books into made-for-television specials. This DVD, just like the other one, has an extra video on it. This is Grinch Night. This is like a prequel to How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and it's supposed to be the Halloween episode. So sometimes it's called Grinch Night, sometimes it's called Grinch's Halloween, depending on what version of it that you had, and it released under a couple names too, so it's kind of weird. But it's a lot shorter and not as poignant as How the Grinch Stole Christmas as far as the story. It's really just the Grinch saying, you know, he likes, you know, when the weather is bad, when the weather is bad, all the Who's go into hiding, so the Grinch can kind of is like one of the few times he like goes into town or comes out of his mountain and just hangs out because he enjoys that type of weather. And except for one kid named Zacchaeus, I believe is his name, or Zacharias, he's like, I don't know, maybe I should hang out with the Grinch and, you know, see what he's all about. And I think if the ever like went back and did it, I feel like you could merge the two plots of this and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and it'd be a really interesting plot, because it's like before Cindy Lou Who is like, oh, this is technically the first character that doesn't see Grinch as like a monster, but just another being that wants to just be left alone, but he also just feels intrigued. So he goes up to the Grinch, and the Grinch is in this giant cart, and he's like, what are you hauling around? And he's just like, oh, it's like nightmares and shit. Nightmares and stuff. So then he goes in there, and then it's just a whole big random animation on top of being a musical, and it's great. So now we're going to talk about, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Grotescuries. It is a DVD Blu-ray compilation of a whole bunch of old Halloween-esque videos and movies, all in the public domain for the most part. All just, I think most of them are just like black and white or like really early color stuff. This is kind of one of those DVDs you'd put on in the background when you're having like a Halloween party and you just want something on television that really isn't going to get anybody's attention, but is going to keep the mood going, and it's going to be noise if you don't want like music going on, or you get have music going on and put this on mute and it'd be fine, because most of this is silent or is like older cartoons where it's not going to have talking in it. The one highlight for me at least is, it's called the Lobster, I believe that's the name of it, but it's about a plot about this guy. He wakes up late one night and is hungry, and you know, everybody sometimes gets a midnight snack. This man makes a full-on meal. He like gets a full-on lobster.
He makes like lobster thermidor.
He does, and he eats it and goes back to bed, and then he has a nightmare about the lobster chasing him in his book, and his bed comes to life, so he's like driving his bed through town, and it's all done in like a stop motion type of way, but with like weird animation in it and live action. It's a really interesting mixed media type of film, back when this mixed media wasn't really being done a lot this way, because this was like 1920s or 1910s, but really comical, really cute. Again, one of those things you just kind of put on in the background and like let the kids watch or something while you finish the Halloween party, or while everybody's like, you know, having fun and chit-chatting. You can have this and have it be like as a, you know, a icebreaker for Halloween or October fall party. I know I showed it to you.
Yeah, I don't really have any feelings about it. It was strange. But then again, a lot of the stuff you show me is strange, so I've just come to accept it. The next one is the Gruffalo. I love the Gruffalo. It's so sweet. It's Robbie Coltrane. It's just so freaking cute. I love it. Oh my goodness, I could watch it every day. It's so sweet. It's so sweet.
We're going to the plot.
So this little mouse is, I believe he's telling a story. It's okay. It's a little bird telling a story to their kids. Squirrel telling a story to the kids. So a squirrel's telling the story to their kids, basically just telling them a nighttime story to get them to lay down. And it's about a little mouse who is trying to just get his next meal because he's hungry. He's little. He's the lowest on the food chain in the forest. So he gets, snuck up on by different predators. And each one, when they come up to him, he describes the Gruffalo, who is this supposed to be big, scary creature that will come and eat the creature that's coming to get him, and saying, well, I'm his best friend, and he's not going to do anything to me, but he'll do stuff to you. And each time, he switches up the story, and then the predators themselves end up meeting up and discussing the fact that they're scared of this creature called the Gruffalo, and how it would eat them. And they're realizing that they're all describing technically the same creature, but it's saying that it's going to eat them in different ways. So they're just like, wait a minute, this little dude is lying to us. So they start hunting him again. And by the time they find him again, he's actually found a Gruffalo. And the Gruffalo, seriously, is kind of like, yeah, I could eat them all. I could. I really could. But the mouse then goes to manipulate the Gruffalo. So the mouse still gets away scot-free. All the creatures kind of get terrified and run off, and the Gruffalo just continues going about his day doing his Gruffalo thing, and it's so cute.
Yeah, I really like the animation style to it. It is CGI, but it's made to kind of almost look like stop motion. Not as much as like Monster House would, but kind of like a softer, almost Wallace and Gromit style look to it. A much newer film that I would make similarities to has kind of the Bad Guys animation style. Not as comic book-y, but definitely in the same type of expressions and look as the animals do. But they're not anthropomorphic. They are just straight up animals. And yeah, that plot was described perfectly. It is based on a book. I don't know how close to the book it is based off of. I also know there's a sequel called The Gruffalo's Child. I don't know anything about that. I haven't checked that out yet. But I remember seeing this on television when it first premiered and just falling in love with it. And so as soon as it came out on DVD, I bought it. And yeah, it's kind of one of those films we watch every winter because it's
a good fall movie.
Yeah, because it's fall and it's the squirrels kind of going into hibernation a bit. So yeah, the kids are still excited. So I just know her, Bellatrix is the mom squirrel. So she tells a story, and it has a lot of the Harry Potter cast in it.
It does.
Weirdly enough. And yeah, the Gruffalo is voiced by Robbie Coltrane.
I would also say it's a good starter movie for a kid who might kind of start showing interest in monsters.
Yeah.
So it's like it's still childish enough and sweet enough to where it shouldn't scare them, but it could like kind of get them a little more into monster movies.
It's in the same vein as like Where the Wild Things Are as far as creature look goes. Halo Legends, I don't think I've ever shown this to you just because I know you're not really into that franchise there. This came out at like the peak of the Halo mania. This is 2009. It is a animated anthology film. I believe only one of the, 9 stories is about Master Chief and Cortana. Everything else is about either the aliens or other military characters that either do eventually show up in the games or just are made for the show. And it just kind of tells each little story. Some are more action-based, some are more heartfelt. There's a couple that are straight up just sci-fi, especially when we get to like the Arbiter and stuff. And each one is done in a different animation style. Most of them are kind of like anime based. So this is in the same vein as like Star Wars Visions and Animatrix. So if you like either one of those, definitely check this out. And yeah, just kind of really the only good Halo media we've had for a while. I know there's another like made straight to DVD film, but I haven't checked it out yet, so I don't know how good that one is. I don't think this touches on anything about the Flood. I think it's really only about the Halo War itself, between the humans and the aliens. All right, so The Hobbit. I know you don't really have much thoughts because.
Okay, so I'm probably gonna lose like half your audience right here.
I know.
It's not that I don't like the Lord of the Rings properties. I can enjoy them, but there's something about the way, no matter how they're shot, they're told. It puts me to sleep. It's so comforting to me.
It's not boring. It's comforting.
It's comforting that I just go to sleep. Even with like Rings of Power when it came out, I was really excited to watch it, and every single time we put an episode on, I started dozing off.
I really enjoy it. This is Rankin Bass doing animation for The Hobbit there, and it follows the book so much better than the live action films did, and in like an hour and a half time, which is enough time to tell almost all the story. I feel like they cut out a couple scenes that they probably should have kept in. But overall, it's a great film. I do like the look of Smeagol and look of Bilbo Baggins, and of course all the dwarves and everything. And it's it's got some really catchy songs in there as well. So definitely, if you want to see a better version of The Hobbit, definitely check this one out.
Okay, so the next one is Ice Age, and again, I'm gonna upset some people. I don't like the Ice Age movies.
So I enjoy like a couple of them. I liked one, which is the one we own. It's like 3 men and a baby, but with animals. This was Blue Sky's first feature film. They knocked it out of the park. Without this film, we want to get eventual movies like Robots, like the Peanuts movie, like Epic, like Nimona.
I love Nimona.
But this is where it started. Also, fun fact, this company was the animation department behind the Roaches in Joe's Apartment. That was where they started. And then they did some short films, and then they were hired on to do Ice Age, because I believe Ice Age was originally supposed to be a Don Bluth movie, but then Titan AE bombed, so they went to, and 2D animation in general was dying, so they went and did this.
Which is sad, because I actually prefer a lot of the 2D animated movies.
I know. And honestly, I think Ice Age would have really worked as a 2D animated
I
film.
might have actually enjoyed it if it was 2D.
Yeah.
One, I didn't like the character designs. I also am not a huge fan, like there's some exceptions, but I'm not a huge fan of movies where the characters are just bickering the whole time.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I very much enjoyed it. I do enjoy the animation style. It has aged a little poorly because
That baby.
the baby, as well as some of the background designs are just a little too bland. Like, I know it's the Ice Age, so everything's kind of snow and stuff, but we have had movies since then do that a lot better with having more dynamic in their environments there. So most of the time,
Frozen.
Yeah, Frozen, to name one of the bigger ones. But yeah, and of course, Scrat. Freaking love Scrat.
Okay, that is my exception. I do love Scrat. I would only watch the Ice Age movies growing up for the little Scrat short.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So, next one is Iron Giant. It's an awesome movie. Of course, it bombed at the box office because around this time, people were not watching 2D anime films. And this was one that just, they kind of let it out to die. They didn't really advertise on it. The way it got popular is because they kept showing it on Cartoon Network and HBO a lot from the years later. So it finally did eventually find its audience.
Which was most of us.
Which was most of us. It's just, this was like 1999. So we were getting stuff like Toy Story, and we were about to get, I think, we were about to get Shrek and a whole bunch of, we got Prince of Egypt. So this kind of just was buried under all of that, sadly. But it's just the really simple tale of a boy and its robot. Pretty much a slice of life type of movie. You do have the one military dude that is trying to discover the robot, and eventually does. And so we've got freaking
Vin Diesel.
We got Vin Diesel voicing the Metal Man himself, the Iron Giant, and he does it perfectly. He believe, I know he did it with Groot. I think he also did it with this, where for every region that this film came out in, he did the voice for it in that language.
Or at least for a few of them.
At least for a few of them. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if he did do that, kudos to him for doing that. The Iron Giant himself is animated in 3D, but he's got a cell shade type of layer on him, so he doesn't look so out of place compared to the actual 2D animated characters. And yeah, it's kind of a perfect animated film.
It really is. For me, it kind of feels like if E.T. were a robot instead of an alien and it was animated.
Right.
And that's probably part of the reason why I love it. 'Cause again, I'm not a huge fan of robot movies, but I love the Iron Giant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's such a beautiful day. As much as I do enjoy the movie, I enjoy the special feature on the disc that is the shorts that blew up on YouTube more.
Yeah. So, so the animation is done by Don Hertzfeld. I believe he animated this entire film himself, just like he animated all the shorts himself as well. He's kind of a one-man band when it comes to all the stuff he's put out. So the film is about this guy just going about his day, and I believe he gets either cancer or leukemia, and so the rest of it is him slowly dying and having these hallucinations because something is attacking his brain. Yeah. So it's a really just kind of trippy but sad film, but it's also in that very simplistic stickman figure style that Don Hertzfeldt has been known for. Yeah, so the other special features that include in the Blu-ray are all of his shorts and the other semi-film series. It's still considered a short, but they're like 30 minutes. It's the Future Parts 1 and 2. Oh yeah, because
that has, it's the little girl's name is Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the one everybody remembers, especially if you grew up in the early days of YouTube, yes, is the Learning Channel short bits, the rejected cartoons, as it would sometimes be placed on YouTube, and you can still look it up. It's not actually rejected. It's shorts. It's a short film that he made of just him making the weirdest, most random things ever. This is where the meme, "My spoon is too big, I am a banana," I think we can say anus. "My anus is bleeding." "Have you worn your hat today?" You know, all that. And of course the other shorts like Balloon Boy, and I even think it includes his one time he did the couch gag for The Simpsons.
It does.
It does.
So yeah, if you were a teenager, like preteen to teenager in the 2000s, this was part of your vocabulary. Just all of it was just permanently on your brain. You could not go a single day in school without somebody just randomly going, "My spoon is too big.
My spoon
is too big.
I am a banana."
there would always be somebody who answered it. It did not matter what year it was. If you were in school between like 2003 and 2011, somebody quoted this set of shorts every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It was that, and it was the one YouTuber that did shoes.
Yeah.
That got quoted a lot too.
Yeah. And then for me at my school, Mr. Weeble was very big too.
Oh, and Potter Puppet Pals.
Ooh, yes. All right. This is Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, the movie. So this was technically supposed to be the pilot episode, but then Nickelodeon was like, no, this is actually pretty good. We can put this in theaters. And so this came out, like the show had already started. So we were already familiar with the character by this point. Still in, I think, season 1 though. But this is technically the first episode that's supposed to start. And it's about Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius sending his little satellite into orbit to try to get aliens communicated with him. Aliens do communicate with him, and they are evil, egg-like Yokians.
Yeah.
Creatures, and they kidnap all the parents.
They make them do the chicken dance.
And so it's up to Jimmy Neutron, Carl Weezer, Cindy, and the rest of the Neutron gang to build these awesome rocket ships out of roller coaster rides and fly off into space.
It was amazing.
It's got one of the coolest soundtracks for the time.
Really does.
This is where I was introduced to Kids in America. This is where I was introduced to the 90s, early 2000s version of Parents Just Don't Understand.
I believe
Aaron Carter.
I believe it also has Pop by NSYNC in it.
I think so.
And that was one of their last
It's a nice time capsule in regards to soundtracks
for the early 2000s.
For the early 2000s. Animation is
still pretty good.
Still pretty good. It is like the whole series is done. This was like one of the first series where the animation was just one of those off-the-shelf animation programs. So it's not going to look as good as other films that were coming out around this time, like Shrek and Toy Story 2.
But it's still
it is aged fairly well if you keep in mind that this is technically supposed to be a made-for-television movie that got a theatrical release.
Also, I actually have a really sweet memory with this movie, because the first time my grandparents took me and my little brother down, the oldest of my little brothers, down to Valdosta to go to Wild Adventures, which really fun park, by the way. They had one of the cars that had a VHS player in the center console.
Mm-hmm.
So they had bought that and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone for the drive down from right around Atlanta all the way down to Valdosta. So we're watching both movies as they're going down, and my grandpa was sure that Jimmy Neutron was going to be just for my brother and Harry Potter was going to be just for me. And, Harry Potter was just for me. But we both ended up loving Jimmy Neutron so much that we just continuously kept wanting to watch Jimmy Neutron. So, yeah.
Alright, so Kubo and the Two Strings. This is by the animation powerhouse company that is Leica. Which is held by Film, I think that's the name of the son. I know the dad is the Nike creator, but his son, there's a whole thing with it, but his son is the owner of the company now, and the movies never do well financially, but that's fine because it's Nike money behind it, so you can just make these films and not have to worry about them making bank. Coraline was the first one, and then we got Paranorman, the Box Trolls.
I love Box Trolls.
And then this was the fourth film, Kubo. Then after that we got The Missing Link, and there's a sixth movie coming out sometime either this year or next year. So going back to Kubo, this is about a story about a boy that tells stories that his mom told him that he doesn't know are actually about his father. and one day his mom gets kidnapped, so he has to go on a journey and basically relive a lot of these stories that his dad went through. And the animation is gorgeous. This was the film that had, I think, the most shots done for it, as well as the biggest amateur ever. I think the biggest creature ever for stop motion. This thing was, I think, like 7 or 10 feet tall. This giant skeleton creature, and it looks amazing. The animation has almost, of course, for the faces, it has that usual kind of 3D printed look that a lot of the Leica films have, but for like the costume and everything, it almost has like a paper look to it. And I know when we watched it the first time, you fell asleep about halfway through.
It wasn't even halfway through. It was like right at the holidays. We were super busy. I was exhausted. You put it on. I went straight to sleep. I don't remember even getting past the opening credits.
Okay.
Because you also were just like, yeah, sure, we can watch this in the bedroom on the super comfy bed while I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got slightly upset that I fell asleep.
Alright. Lego Movie. Oh, man. I went in... I didn't actually go in with low expectations. So when they announced this movie... we didn't know what it was going to be about. We didn't know if it was going to be about Lego the subject or Lego the toy, or they were going to do something like Bionicle, where it's going to be taking place in one of the many Lego franchises. And then the trailer came out, and everybody thought it was stop motion at first. And the animators had to come out and say, no, this is CGI, but with the framing technique that would be stop motion. So it's a bit more... technical, jittery, to give it that stop motion look to it. And it is a gorgeous, funny film. It really
is.
And of course, this is probably one of the movies that does like multiverse thing right, I feel like, because it pulls from all the other Lego franchises. We get Star Wars, we get Batman. This was back when they had the Teenage Ninja Turtles line. This is...
but you also have like Gandalf and Dumbledore talking to each other, and you've got random Voldemort.
Yep. On top of all the original characters that they made for this story, this is probably one of the only animated films where the Chris Pratt matches what he's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, like... He's supposed to be like the everyman, and he honestly just sounds like a bland everyman. But it works for this because it plays so well off everybody else. Benny is my favorite.
Benny is my favorite, yes.
Followed very closely by Unikitty.
Yep. And then leading right into that, the Lego Batman film, which is kind of a spin-off. It is the same voice actor that's voiced Lego Batman in the Lego movie. They never really say whether this is the same Lego Batman, though. I'm assuming it's not, just because he never addresses the Lego movie at all, and the Lego movie is never referenced. They do, of course, pull in other franchise characters during the third act, or second act leading into the third act. It is probably my favorite Batman movie.
Yeah.
Just because of all the callbacks that they do to every single generation of Batman, just like later on the Spider-Verse movie would do. But this was right before that. And what's really interesting I found is we have Ralph Fiennes voicing the Butler, but he doesn't voice Voldemort. And Voldemort's in this.
Yeah,
and
he's
like
in this
a
one
very
too.
prevalent part of the film too.
So here's my thoughts on if it's an in-universe Batman. I think technically it's not for the storyline that the Lego movie is. I do still think it's the same set of toys though.
Okay.
Because I think it's the son from Lego movie doing a whole Batman playthrough, because it does have a solid storyline, but it's also kid-level chaotic.
It is.
So that gives to me like it's the son from the Lego movie playing through this whole idea he had now that he's allowed to play with the toys.
Right. I can see that. I can see that. All right, Little Prince. Okay. So this is the second time this story has been done in stop motion animation. I don't know what it is with stop motion animation, but it just really translates well with this story.
Yeah, it really does.
It's a story based on a French book about a little prince that has his own little planet, and he comes upon this marooned airplane pilot from, like, I think World War II or maybe World War One. I don't remember, but the little boy, to keep him company, kind of tells him his adventures that he's had from planet to planet as he's been coming to Earth, and every planet is about the size of maybe a house, where it's just big enough for like one person to be on it, and every character is like supposed to be an allegory for this or that kind of thing in reality. And in the end, the boy gets killed by a snake. It's really weird. So then Netflix, well, originally it was going to be a theatrical film, but then it got pulled, and Netflix bought it and distributed. I think it still had a limited theatrical run, but it was on their streaming service. And so it takes that, and all the story parts of that are still in the regular stop motion animation style. But then also, because the story is so short, it includes this whole story about this little, I think, elementary school kid with a workaholic mom who's like literally scheduling every minute of her life so that she can be the most efficient in throughout her life, through middle school, high school, college, work, basically never letting the kid having her own time. And they move into this new place, and right next, or like right across the fence, is what is supposed to be the pilot. He's now an older man now, but he kind of sparks her imagination and tells her about the story of the little prince. And eventually she finds the little prince. Like, the little prince didn't die. The little prince just grew up and became, part of the society, and she has to remind the person of the childlike wonder he used to have and stuff there. And that's done in like a CGI style. It's really cute movie, and very interesting in how it is told and how they expand this like 32-page book into an hour-and-a-half film.
I mean, yeah, basically everything you just said. It's a really well done movie. For me, it was like really sweet. It was just such a sweet watch. But yeah,
The Lorax, the good version, the only version, in my opinion. So this is, again, 1970s animation style, done by the same, I believe this is Chuck Jones Animation Studio doing all the animation for these films here. It follows the book to a T. It's got some of the most memorable musical numbers ever. And yeah, it's bittersweet, and there's no happy ending like the freaking Illumination movie made it have. This also has my favorite weird second story to it. So the other short on here is called Pantoffel Pock and His Magic Piano. And it's literally about a guy that just can't find his way in life. He gets fired from a pickle plant, and so these little fairy type of creatures come down and give him a piano, and it has a whole bunch of buttons, and he can literally go anywhere and explore the whole world. So he goes to this place and that place, basically, and then he ends up in like a Saudi Arabia type of area, falls in love with this princess. She falls in love with him. They flee, and then they're all trying to get back to his home so that he could live his life with the princess. And they end up both working at the pickle factory, and it's just a nice, fun little short film. You've never seen either one of these films?
I haven't. The story of the Lorax wasn't anything that ever really interested me, so I didn't look into it. And the other one, I only know the pull 'em and the push 'em part that you will sing sometimes.
The pull 'em and push on, the push 'em, and the pickles go into the jar. Tra-la-la, the pickles go into the jar.
So yeah, he does that sometimes. And it'll just be the most random moments. We'll be like putting groceries away, and all of a sudden he'll start singing that.
Because we get pickles sometimes. I'm like, oh, it must have come from the pickle plot.
Sometimes when we haven't even gotten pickles, you're just as you're putting canned goods up.
Alright, Lord of the Rings. So this is Ralph Banksy's animated Lord of the Rings film. Again, it's just like The Hobbit. However, J.J. Abrams' live-action Lord of the Rings is the way to watch these films if you like the book. This was the first...
J.J. Abrams does Lord of the Rings?
I'm sorry. Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings series is the way to watch the film adaptations of these books. This was like one of the first tries of making this into a movie, and it's not even the full book series. It's literally just like the first, I think, book and a half, because there is a second film, which is Return of the King, which I have never seen and we don't own. But this film is pretty decent. Smeagol is kind of weird in animation. They made him look more like a frog/toad type of creature than just a cave-dwelling once a hobbit-like creature, but no longer is not. So, yeah. I don't know if you've seen this film, or I know this is probably maybe in line where you try to watch it and then you fell asleep.
Yeah, I do remember you trying to show it to me, but it was also another case of you tried to show it to me after a long shift, and it was already night outside, and I was just tired, so you were like, oh, you can go to sleep in it, it's not a big deal.
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it's really, it's like, if you fall asleep during this film, I will not blame you, because it is kind of a slower paced film compared to the other live action films, and even compared to the books, honestly. Lost and Found, you have not seen this one yet. So this is, I believe, based on a book, the same name. It's very cute, very simplistic 3D animation, CGI style, about a penguin that gets lost, and this boy helps the penguin get back to the Antarctic. And that's pretty much it. It's just a cute little film. Speaking of cute little films,
Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. I love this movie. It's so sweet, but also will make you cry. It's about this little shell with shoes. He's living with his grandmother and what used to be an actual home, but now it's just like an Airbnb. And I think he's like a YouTuber?
He's a YouTuber documentarian.
Yeah, he comes in and he starts basically documenting Marcel's life there, and the fact that, he wants to find his family. So the videos that he's putting out on Marcel start taking off, and the next thing you know, he's getting really popular. He gets on, I think it was 60 Minutes?
60 Minutes.
Yeah, he ends up on 60 Minutes. And it eventually does lead with him finding his family, but not before he loses his grandmother. And it's so sad. And I cry so hard. But it's also the perfect napping movie because it's super low energy.
Right. Yeah, I was not going into this film expecting to cry. I'm not afraid to cry. It just takes a lot to make me cry. There's a lot of films where people get sad that I just don't get sad at, just because I'm I know it's trying to make me feel that emotion, so my brain is you don't need to cry, because it's just, it's a movie. This one is just a whole lot of heart, which is weird saying from a movie that's based on a bunch of YouTube shorts that were out around the same time as Don Hertzfeld stuff and a lot of the other early YouTube sensations. This one just kind of, died for a little bit and then came back all of a sudden as an A24 film, or A24 produced film. And the reason why they lost family is because there used to be a couple that lived in that house, and they broke up because it was a big fight. And so the one of the, I think it was the male, just kind of left in the middle of the fight, and so he just kind of threw stuff from a dresser drawer into a suitcase, and that's where a lot of this family was living in the dresser drawer at the time, so he accidentally took them all with him. And yeah, with the help of the 60 Minutes, they do eventually find the rest of the family. It's really cool. Like, Marcel and the grandmother are shells, but the rest of the family is, outside of like the other shells, is other just kind of little knickknacks and random pieces of, I guess, trash that you would find. So there's like peanut shells, there's a like a thimble, a thing of thread, a pincushion, a tampon, some Cheetos. The little pistachio shells are all in this weird, cute little family. And Marcel is cute and has he's got his little kind of snarky attitude about it. Not into meanness, but just kind of
like a cute, sarcastic kid.
Yeah, like a kid that's just starting to know what sarcasm is, but doesn't know how to use it to be manipulative or mean. He's just kind of doing one off the cuff kind of jokes or
kind of like Lilo.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And speaking of Lilo, this director's supposedly be doing the live action Lilo and Stitch film, which, you know, as much as I don't like pretty much any of the live action Disney films, if they had to pick a director, I would want them to pick this director, because this does have kind of the same vibe that Stitch gives off.
And we were discussing with those, we've noticed that the ones that have a correlating stage show are really bad, and the ones that don't tend to be a little better, not including Mulan.
I'll cut that out because it's not part of it. Miracle Maker. So I've talked about this one on my top 10 underrated anime films. So this is just the story of Christ as told from a different point of view than just him or the disciples, like most of those stories do. Yeah, they do portray Jesus still as white. I think most of the other characters do have similar skin tones to people in with that been area at that time. And we got Ralph Fiennes voicing Jesus, which is kind of interesting. So they all kind of have a little bit of like a British accent to them, which is interesting. I don't know if you've seen this version or not.
I haven't. Just hasn't been something that I've wanted to watch. Alright, Mitchell's versus the Machines. Me and this movie got issues.
Might want to say that again.
I was like, okay. Mitchell's versus the Machines. Me and this movie have issues. This is an example of the constantly bickering that I don't like. I really am tired of the movies where the entire plot is the parent thinks their way's best and the kid thinks their way's best, but the actual best way is combining the two, and it's overdone. I'm tired of seeing it. The only good things in this movie are the two kind of goofy robots and the pug. I freaking love the pug. I would die for the pug. Also, this movie has a giant Furby in it, which makes it immediately something I hate.
Yeah, so the plot of this movie is basically this tech guy that is like kind of like the Apple Steve Jobs of the universe, comes out with this new update for smart devices where it's like really, really smart AI and they can do anything. And he's kind of, the tech is taken over entire world. So when he does this update, he kind of like, because the AI is already smart enough, the original AI before the update feels betrayed that he would want to update the AI to be even smarter because they thought they were the smartest. So the original AI takes over everything and causes basically a big old robot apocalypse to happen. And yeah, it's this one family that can't get along that's driving their daughter to college and having like a road trip, but then get caught in the middle of this whole thing. Two of the robots do malfunction and they end up being part of the family by the end of it. Those are hilarious and the best parts of the film. I enjoy the giant Furby, and the reason for the giant Furby is they have to go somewhere where there's Wi-Fi so they can upload, the the thing that would kill the AI or turn it off. So they go to a mall. I think it's like the Mall of America or something. And then all of a sudden the appliances come to life. So they try to hide, and they hide in a toy store. Well, the toy store has Furbies, and Furbies have electronics in them. So the Furbies turn evil like they weren't already. And there's a giant one that's like two and a half stories tall that chases them and has like talks in a really deep voice, and they do use the actual Furby voice for this, and then have subtitles down at the bottom, and the subtitles are the greatest because like it's like this is the Dark Lord of Suffering, you all will perish, just kind of
confirming everybody's thoughts on Furbies or demons from hell.
It is animated by the same company that would eventually go on to do, they did Lego Movie, and then they would do Spider-Verse as well. So if you like that type of weird, almost experimental animation style, I would definitely check this out. I believe it was a Netflix movie. Because it was going to be, again, this was one of those, it was going to have a theatrical release to it. Then COVID happened, so it went straight to Netflix. And it did wonderfully there.
Monster House is another one I have issues with.
Different issues, though.
Yeah, I don't like the art style for it. It's a little too weird for me. I don't really like the backstory for the house. It's like being haunted by
the dead wife.
The dead wife, and like, was it her? What was her whole deal again?
So the wife. All right. So the story's about these prepubescent or right on the edge of puberty kids, preteens, that live across the house, or the one I think his name is JT, lives right across this old house, and I think every neighborhood has had the one old house that just like the old person lives on, that just like stay off your yard, stay off my yard, you know, Karen, before Karen was the thing to call it. So it's the old Nebuchadnezzar's house. Well, this house actually is haunted, and the reason why it's haunted is because when Nebuchadnezzar was young, this overweight lady was like at a fair and being, you know, bullied and stuff. So he takes her home and they get married, but she still doesn't like people because of the trauma she had to deal with as being part of a freak show.
Yeah, that was one of the things that really ticked me off. Why is the whole plot of the movie that it's being haunted by a lady that was traumatized just because she was big? Like, well, come on.
It wasn't traumatized because she was big. It was traumatized because people were being mean to her because she was big.
But come on.
And then she dies, and like it's not murder. It's just kind of a you know, an accident where as she's trying to fend off some teens while the house is being built, she trips and falls into a thing of cement, and the cement falls on her, so she's instantly killed because she's encased in the cement. Is kind of a little reach because that's not exactly how that works. But her soul takes over the house, and so the rest of the time it's the kids going through this house and finding out this story. And yeah, the animation is weird. It's done by Image Movers, that motion capture, same people, same company that did Polar Express, but different animation look to it. This one again is supposed to be more stop motion look, although I think it would have just been better if it were a stop motion movie. That's just my opinion. I don't mind the animation style. I just feel like if you're gonna try, might as well just do that type of style there, because this was like 2005, so we hadn't really gotten to a time yet to where computers could make things look realistic enough, like eventually what would happen in the Lego movie, where you really can't tell that is CGI. This you can definitely still tell it's CGI, trying to look like clay and stop motion animation. I really enjoy this. It's one of my favorite Halloween movies to watch. I watched it years ago, for Halloween, back when it first came out on DVD. I love the video game. I've talked about that as well. Go check out that review. Overall, it's a classic film in my opinion. Nutcracker Fantasies. So I found out this film just because I was researching Rankin Bass type of films, and this came up. This isn't done by Rankin Bass. It's done by a different Japanese studio, I believe. And it does kind of take the story of the Nutcracker, but it has its own kind of twists and stuff on as well. It's a really weird movie. I've only seen it once, and that was back when I bought it just a couple years ago. So I don't know if I'd recommend it yet, other than if you really like stop motion animation, check it out. Or if you really like the Rankin Bass style of stop motion animation, check that out. I know we watched it together.
It was too weird for me.
Fair enough.
That's all I'm gonna say. Pagemaster. If you were born in the 90s and you haven't seen Pagemaster, you need to go watch it.
Yeah, so I really enjoy this film. I grew up with this film. It's my I grew up with this film. It's my favorite Macaulay Culkin film. Like, I get everybody loves Home Alone and stuff, and Good Son's pretty good as well. But
Good Son is creepy.
It is. But the Pagemaster, it's just a really fun story about a kid getting over his fears of life in general, because he's like a really timid, really frightened kid. He goes to a library to get out of the rain, and the librarian is freaking Doc Brown.
Yeah.
And so the walls start melting. He gets transported to the world of books, and he has the fairy tale, the adventure, and the horror book as friends, and they're literal books of that genre. And they go through a lot of the classic book stories like Treasure Island and one of the fairy tales, and I think Hunchback.
Yeah, I think they do Hunchback.
All to, and throughout it, he gets a bit more
self-assured.
Self-assured, bit more confidence in it, too. By the time he returns back to the human world, he's a changed kid. It may sound like a pretty blah blah, but they do it really well, I think. And the animation is really done fantastically as well, and holds up really good to this day. I believe this film came out in like 92 or 93. That's, yeah. Yeah,
it was really well done. It is a simple plot, but because that it's a simple plot, it means they could do more with it. Mm-hmm. It allowed them to like really stretch themselves and have fun with it. So yeah.
Paprika, and it's The Matrix meets Inception done in an anime style. I know that's very simplistic is what I'm trying to explain, because it's not those two things entirely, but it kind of is. Or at least it probably inspired one of those films. I think this is after Matrix, but this was definitely way before Inception would come out. So yeah, and it's really trippy. It's definitely an a film made for adults. It's definitely not something you would show to, like, I would say anything from like middle school or lower. This isn't in the same vein as like Studio Ghibli. This is more on something around the same lines of like Ghost in the Shell. There. Your thoughts?
So I think this will be the first one on our list that I can't physically watch.
Okay.
Because it's too trippy, it messes with my astigmatism, and it gives me a migraine.
Fair enough.
Also, I'm not a fan of Inception or The Matrix, so when you described it that way, I instantly was just like, I'm not interested. You have shown it to me. You did want me to sit through it all the way until you realized that it was physically hurting me to watch this movie.
Alright, so the Phantom Tollbooth, I've given my thoughts on it already in the Classic Movies review. Also, I talked about it in the Top 10 Underrated Animated Films video. So if you want to hear my thoughts on this film, go check out those two videos. What are your thoughts on the film?
I mean, it's a cute little punny movie. It's, great one to put on for kids to watch. Good one to have, like, in the background while you're doing other things. It doesn't really take much brain power to follow. It's just a cute little fun movie.
It really is. All right, Pirates, Band of Misfits. I don't know if you remember this one, because I've only think you've seen it once.
Vaguely remember it.
Okay.
I do know it's, like, from the people that did the Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah, Aardman Animation.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I do enjoy the animation for it. It's really cute. I know the Queen is in it.
Yes.
Like
So-
they did a character based off the Queen.
Yes. Elizabeth the First.
Is it Elizabeth the First?
It's not Elizabeth the Second.
No.
It's,
Is it Victoria?
I think it's
Victoria.
So the plot is these pirates that are like really bad at being pirates, and they're trying to win the Pirate of the Year award, and to do that they have to, capture something big or steal something big. So what do? They try to steal the Queen's crown. Well, along the way they run across Darwin, like literally Darwin,
Definitely Victoria.
and his monkey butler, and he's apparently working for the Queen. He thinks he's working for the Queen by just traveling around the world and finding all the birds and creatures, and he's trying to find the last dodo bird. And they do find the last dodo bird, and the pirates are just like, oh, so we can help. We can claim this as we help, so we'll also get money. So we don't. So and then we'll get to see the Queen, and we can steal the crown, and also get a whole bunch of money on top of that. And then they find out like the Queen is like part of this secret underground band of people that eat rare and on the verge of extinction animals. So they have to pivot and rescue the dodo as well as Darwin, who is the first person to come across the plot there. And yeah, it's done by the Aardman Animation Studios. This is when they were working alongside with, I believe, Sony Animation by this point. And it's also based on a book. The book is called The Pirates versus the Scientists. So I don't know how close it is to the book plot-wise, but it is a very fun and very funny movie. You have not seen this next film, so I believe it's called Popple of Chimney Town. It is about a boy in like a steampunk world where like everybody works for this big steam company, and I believe like he doesn't have any friends, so he eventually comes upon this robot type of creature made from scrap, and they go on an adventure exploring the steampunk world. At least for the English dub, it takes place kind of around Halloween, so this is actually kind of a movie I'd check her out around Halloween. It's anime style, but it's like for the most part CGI, but it's like cell shaded to look 2D. So it's got an interesting art style to it. I've shown you a trailer, and that's about all.
The trailer
I've seen.
is really cute.
Yeah.
I will give it that. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Yeah, and I've only recently watched it myself because I believe it's still a newer movie. It only came out maybe around 2 or 3 years ago. The Puppetoon movie. I have also talked about this in my top 10 underrated anime video. I will go into it a little bit here. It is kind of an introduction to George Pal and George Pal's Puppetoon style of animation. If you want to know more about that type of style, I did go into that with my video about George Pal. So check out that video there. And but the movie starts out with Gumby and Pokey not knowing about George Pal. So one of the supposed characters from one of George Pal's films shows him a bunch of his short Puppetoon films, and by the end of it, they find out that he's whereas the other guy is considered the cameraman's revenge animator is considered the great great grandfather of animation. This guy is considered like the grandfather of modern stop motion animation, right up there with Ray Harryhausen. And so by the end of the film, all the characters who were animated using stop motion at the time thank George Pal, and that includes Speedy from the Alka-Seltzer, the Pillsbury Doughboy, Frog and Toad from the Frog and Toad series, and even one of the Gremlins from the Gremlins film, which I thought was pretty cool. Did you see this one?
No.
No? Okay.
We both decided to, just not let me kill your joy.
Alright. So these next two films are a little out of order alphabetically because they're on a 2-disc set. So technically it is in alphabetical order for the first film. It's just the second film technically should be up higher on the list, but because it's booked in with this film, they're included on the same thing. So the first film is Quest for Camelot.
So I enjoy this one a lot more than you do. I will admit it does not hold up as well as it did when it came out. I really enjoyed it when it came out. I love the two-headed dragon. It also has my favorite Celine Dion song on it. Like, I know everybody loses their mind from My Heart Will Go On from Titanic, but The Prayer is such a beautiful song. And they do just the English version for the movie, but there's also an English and Italian version that she does with one of the dudes from Il Divo, and it's gorgeous. But yeah, the main girl, I believe her name is Kaylee, decides that she wants to go off and join King Arthur because her father died fighting with King Arthur. So she wants to go and continue her father's work. She was a daddy's girl through and through, and on her way there, she meets a blind man just living in the forest. He's like attuned himself to the wilderness. He knows where everything is, and he uses what he knows to help get her through begrudgingly because he doesn't really want to help her. And hijinks ensues. They come across the bad guy. The bad guy, I believe, is voiced by Gary Oldman. So, yeah, they do eventually make it to King Arthur's court. They let him know, hey, bad guy that, helped kill my dad is still at large. We still need to take care of this. But, bad guy's kind of think he's kind of already gotten to them at that point and done his worst. So it's up to her, and I believe the blind guy's name is Garrett. I think it's Garrett. It's been a few years since I've seen this movie, but I remember really enjoying it. It does have a happy ending. They end up getting married. It's another case of not really enemies to lovers as a trope, but just like reluctant companions to lovers.
So I like parts of this film. There's parts of this film that work, and there really is, if this went through a little bit of more editing in the writer's room, I really think this would have been a classic film that wasn't a Disney film. But I think they tried too hard to make it be like a Disney film.
They did.
And added too many side characters in, because we've got the chicken axe head thing.
That's
voiced by
Hedgeman.
Yeah, voiced by Steve Urkel. We've got the two-headed dragon with one of the two heads being voiced by Mr. Potato Head. And it's just too many characters, I feel like. I think it would have been fine if it were more about her and the blind man trying to... and really dived more into the King Arthur lore than trying to be its own thing. Would have been cool. I don't mind the villain. I think that was fine. The main two protagonists are fine. I just think it really should have maybe
pared down.
Pared down a little bit there. The other film, Cats Don't Dance. Okay, so again, this was in my top 10 animated films. It's a great musical film. Again,
Really
it came
is.
out in, I think, 1999. So, like Iron Giant, it got buried by all the big movies that came out that year. And it finally found, it's in the last like 5 or 10 years, it's starting to finally gain a cult following, and finding its audience with people that didn't even know this film existed, because because it's been on streaming, because they showed it a good bit on like Cartoon Network. Growing up, a lot more people are remembering this movie. So it's about a cat that goes to Hollywood during the 1920s, or in the golden era of Hollywood, trying to make it big, but finding out that Hollywood does not want animals doing anything other than being in little bit animal parts there. And so he's trying to get them all actual casted in films. And we've got probably one of the best villains and villain songs in there. And I showed this. I was the one that introduced you to this film, because you were one of the people that didn't even know that this film existed.
Yeah.
You got the DVD to this because you wanted Quest for Camelot, and I was okay with it because it had Cats Don't Dance on it, which you had no clue what it was. So your thoughts from seeing that film?
So I do really enjoy the movie. The villain is fantastic. I love her. She does remind me of Angelica from Rugrats, which is probably why I love her so much. Also, Pudge.
Pudge.
Yeah. As soon as the movie starts and you see Pudge, that was it. I was sold. The movie could have been crap from then on, and I wouldn't have cared, because that little penguin was so cute.
All right, so the next movie is Red Turtle. This is technically considered a Studio Ghibli film because they helped produce it. I'm not sure if they helped animate it, because it's not an anime Japanese animation style. It's more of it's still 2D animation with some 3D in it, but it's more like watercolor based. When I mentioned it in my top 10 underrated animated films, I said it was cel shaded. I don't think that's the right word to say here. I think it's just it has that type of watercolor style to it, but the plot is very simplistic yet weird plot, where this man gets stranded on an island and he tries to escape, but he just can't. And eventually Red Turtle comes, and I'm not going to spoil the movie any more after that, but as I said, the ending is kind of weird and left up to interpretation. And you saw this film the same time I saw this film.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to it. You've pretty much covered everything. It is really pretty, though. Like, watching it, it's kind of like a feast for your eyes.
Mm-hmm. Which is what the opposite, I think you would say, for this next movie.
This next movie, nope. The next one is Rango. I hate this movie.
Is there a reason why you hate this movie?
Okay, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of the art style. There is a happy medium for me between super jagged and super rounded, and this movie takes more to the jagged side.
Mm-hmm.
I need there to be a balance, and during the time this movie came out, and like a lot of the stuff that was on Cartoon Network, it was either super sharp corners everywhere, or there was not a sharp edge in sight, and it really bugged me. I can't do it. Can't do it. Also, the snake.
The snake with the
snake
with the Gatling gun tail.
Nope. No.
And then there's me. I love this film. Of course, you are not a big fan of westerns in general.
Yeah, I also just don't like westerns.
Yeah. Whereas for the most part, I'm fine with most of them. This is one that I actually really enjoy, and I think Johnny Depp does a really good job here. It's definitely an interesting plot, because it takes place in like the middle of a desert where this whole town relies on water, but then one day the water dries up, so it's up to Rango and this ragtag team to go and find why the water is stopped, and at the same time, everybody thinks he's like this big sheriff. It's kind of like the shakiest gun in the West type of situation here, where they all think he's this big bad dude because he was able to accidentally defeat this crow, raven, eagle, hawk, bird. And so they all hail him as the sheriff, and the mayor thinks, mayor sees through this, and he's like, oh, I can manipulate him, which he does. And then, hijinks ensue, and it's a really, really cute movie, in my opinion. But yeah, the animation is a bit off-putting for some people. Ray Harryhausen's Fairy Tales. So Ray Harryhausen, again, one of the grandfathers of stop-motion animation. This was a lot of his shorts where he was just doing the Grimm's fairy tales in his animation style. I'm okay with it. I don't like, for some odd reason, he did this weird animation style with the mouths to where it doesn't go from one frame of mouth to another. It like dissolves. So anytime the mouth moves, like they don't talk. Like there's a narrator and the characters just react. But anytime the faces change, it's like a dissolve. So it's like a slow transfer from one face to another, and it's really weird. So I don't watch it as much just because that is one of the few stop motion things that kind of puts me off. Is just I feel like it's bad animation.
I completely agree with you there. I'm not a huge stop motion person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has to either be super sweet, like Marcel the Shell, or it has to be Rankin Bass.
Fair enough.
I'm not a fan of it. And is this the one with the weird story with the dancing chairs?
Nope. We haven't gotten to that one yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But the next film is the one you enjoy.
I do. I love Road to El Dorado. I do think that you should probably not show this one to little kids.
Oh, no.
There are some jokes in there that border on inappropriate.
And there's, some people had some fun animating some characters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a feast for the eyes, I will say that.
It is.
I do really enjoy the movie, though. It's a lot of fun. My favorite scene is the scene where the little armadillo turns into the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they played the Aztec Mayan version of soccer.
Yeah, it's really fun. I really enjoy that. But yeah, the movie itself is really fun. I do enjoy the music. I do say, though, if I have to choose between that and, like, Emperor's New Groove, I'm still going to choose Emperor's New Groove.
Fair enough.
But this is still a lot of fun.
Yeah, piggybacking off of it, yeah, this is definitely in the time frame as Emperor's New Groove. I don't know if they came out the same year or this one came out right before it or right after it. But if you like one, you'll probably like the other. I do agree that the animation is feast for your eyes. I don't really have anything else much to add to that. Next film is one that's near and dear to my heart, Robots, also known by Blue Sky Animation Studio. It is about a robot from a small town going into the big city and learning that the big city will try to eat him whole. Literally, because there's these bad robots that are trying to outmode people by making them not be able to replace and repair themselves, and they can only buy upgrades. And it's a really interesting kind of take on like the healthcare system, on top of some other stuff as well. And it's got a stacked cast.
It really does.
We've got Robin Williams as Fender. We've got
is it Ewan McGregor?
Ewan McGregor as Rodney Copperbottom. We've got Amanda Bynes as Piper. We've got
Drew Carey's in it.
Drew Carey. Drew Carey is the villain.
No, Drew Carey's one of the other.
Drew Carey is,
buddies.
I believe, the orange robot. I don't remember his name. We've got just a whole bunch of big names for the time when the movie came out. Big names and some up and coming names as well. Their animation, this was like back when this movie came out, people were really astounded by how realistic-ish it looked, as far as like rust and aluminum and copper and all the different types of metals. And because of that, it has held up extremely well. Like, this is probably, outside of maybe the Peanuts film, probably Blue Sky's best looking animated movie. And you can see, if you watch like the behind the scenes stuff, they really did their research in making sure that the metals actually look like metal, and the weights would like, if these robots were actually made, they would walk with the type of weight that they would have on them. And it's just a really cool behind the scenes, just watching it. And of course, the designs are really cool, and how they get around certain things in the robot world, like making babies and eating and going to the bathrooms. It's stuff like that can be played off as, raunchy jokes. It is also just kind of really cool world building, and this one has really good world building. Like, you can definitely see how this world would literally work, how the robots would interact. It doesn't just kind of throw stuff and you're like, okay, now just you just gotta suspend your disbelief. This is all like, all right, I can see how this is all works, and I would love to see a sequel of some sort. I would love to see a television show. Heck, I would even like to see like a prequel, because they do like allude to a lot of stuff that would be really interesting to watch. Your thoughts?
Okay, so I don't hate this movie. My only real issues with it isn't even with anything in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a really well-made movie. It is enjoyable. I just saw it too many times growing up.
Fair enough.
So, if I see it once every few years, I'm fine. But if we ever get back in the territory where we're watching it consistently, I might start to hate it again.
Fair enough. Secret of the Kells. You want to start that one?
No, let you start.
Alright, so Secret of the Kells is by I guess I can't really call them new animation, because this came out in like 2008, so they have been around for almost about a decade and a half now. It's called Toon Kaboom, I believe, is the name. No, Toon Saloon. Toon Saloon. This was their first film. It is an Irish film. I believe they're an Irish animation company. And a lot of their films, as we'll talk about soon, are based off Irish lore. So this is one about a little boy meeting what is basically a spirit girl, and I forget what they're trying to do. I know he's like in a monastery, so I believe he's trying to like, I think they're trying to transcribe the parts of the Bible or something like that. So I know that's part of the plot.
Well, he's probably apprenticing for somebody.
Right. So it's been a while since I've seen this film. I do know the animation is gorgeous.
So pretty.
It's got this type of style to where it is 2D, but the really whereas like a lot of companies, especially like Disney and stuff, they'll try to draw the outline of characters to the same color as whatever the skin tone is or whatever the fabric is, so you can't really tell there's an outline. It looks they really do a thick border,
like they want you to see that outline, and it's a really cool artistic choice.
And then inside of all that is like everything has got really intrinsic type of like the type of design you'd see on like iron walls and stuff.
It's got the Celtic knots.
Yeah, the Celtic knots. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a gorgeous movie. You're the one who showed it to me. It's also, we realize that you don't you have issues with like British accents. You don't like them, but you enjoy Irish accents.
I do. Yeah. I British accents for the most part kind of I just don't get into them. They're not bad. It's just, and that's just the voice that you have. if you're watching your YouTube and it's got somebody in a British voice, it just is like nails on a chalkboard to me.
But if it's like Irish or Scottish, you're really into
really
it.
get into that. Yeah.
So that was like one of the first things I discovered about you while we were watching that movie. It's so pretty. I love it so much. They really kind of go in with the greens.
They do.
Like, they're so vivid and there's so many different
Greens
shades.
and reds.
It's so, oh my goodness.
Which is nice because the female is like almost all pure white because she's a ghost.
She
so
stands
she really
out.
stands out.
And it's able to tell kind of a little bit of a darker story without making the entire surrounding dark.
Right. Yeah. All right, Secret and Nim, Don Bluth's big movie, one of probably the most memorable one that everybody has seen and talked about, except for Shelby.
I have seen it. I know I've seen it, but I don't remember
I showed
it.
her a trailer. I've described the plot to her. She cannot remember this
Can't remember
film.
it at all.
So, I'm not going to go into the plot here, but it's based off a book of the same name. Well, it's not the same name. It's called Miss Frisbee or Miss Frisbee or Fizbree and the Rats of Nim. But yeah, it's like, as you know, this is probably Don Bluth's best movie out of all the movies that he's done. This is, I know you have otherwise, but this is the greatest one for me. It's wonderful animation, especially with when they like get to the Rat City and there's a lot of electricity going through there, and how they did that and everything was really cool. Song of the Sea is another cartoon saloon film, another Celtic lore based film. This one about these seals that are kind of like, I don't know, angels or gods or something like that, but kind of like guardian angels the way. And it's about brother and sister who I believe have lost their mother, and they're living with their grandmother for a while their dad is working. And so the little sister kind of stumbles across the lore and a whole bunch of inhabitants of this, interesting fairy tale.
I don't really have much to add. It's a really pretty movie. This one where Secret of Kells is like really pretty greens and reds. This one is almost all in blue.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that with this particular studio, when they come up with a color story, they stick to that color story, and it's really calming to see all of that.
Yeah. And going from really calming to
as high energy as you can get.
The loudest movie probably is Space Jam. I know it's one of those nostalgic things where you had to grow up with it, had to be the right age growing up with it to really enjoy it. I know people younger and older than the people that grew up with it do not like this movie, and I get it. I totally get it. But it's just kind of one of those things where you just turn your brain off and watch it, and it's great.
And it's a quintessential 90s movie.
It really is.
I don't think I know a single person I went to school with who doesn't love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where in high school, so you would think we would have been old enough to pick the non-children's movie. We were given the choice between Space Jam and like one of the Marvel movies to watch during one of our classes because we didn't have anything to do that day. And everybody, literally the entire class at the top of our lungs were just like, Space Jam! And that teacher was like, okay, that's a first today. So yeah, we just really, I remember growing up loving this movie. The soundtrack is fantastic as long as you don't listen to one artist's song on there.
Yeah, it's
stick to everybody else.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk about these kind of back to back because they're literally part of the same series. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I enjoyed the first one. I still like the second one. I just felt like it is that middle child issue where it's like there's telling part of a story, but it's not the whole story, and you got to wait for the second part for it to complete it. I do like the new characters they introduced. I really like the animation styles. I really like animation styles for the first one. I really enjoy Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and the Peter Parker dad, voiced by Nick Schmidt.
Nick
Miller. So that's all fun. You're the bigger Spider-Man fan, though, I'll let you gush about it.
So, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero, which I know it's a cliche, but I grew up loving Spider-Man. We were a Spider-Man household since I was little. That being said, I realized watching this movie that I actually prefer Miles Morales over Peter Parker.
Fair enough.
So, Miles as a character, I think, has more going on. He's more dynamic than Peter. There's a little bit more of an edge to Miles because at his heart, Peter's just a dork.
He is.
And there's only so much you can do with
dork that becomes a superhero.
Dork that becomes a superhero with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need
It's almost like half the Marvel cast.
It really is.
Even Iron Man to a degree.
But I feel like Iron Man in terms of personality is a little bit closer to Miles than he is Peter.
And I think that's why you like Miles, because your second favorite
is Iron Man. Also, so watching the first Spider-Verse movie, I got really into it. It was really cool.
Which was weird, because at first she didn't want to watch the movie because it was an animated movie.
Well,
and I said, it's an animated Spider-Man film. But then I mentioned Miles Morales is the main Spider-Man.
And I was all for it.
And you're like, ooh, Miles, they're finally doing Miles Morales.
I was really excited for Miles.
I didn't even show her a trailer. We kind of went in blind.
Well, I chose to go in blind because I knew if I saw a trailer, it might dampen it for me some. So I chose to go in blind. I do wish I'd kind of seen a trailer so that I could mentally prepare for all the moving colors, because if you have like kind of a more severe case of astigmatism like I do, it can give you a headache. And the second one even more so, because the second one goes even more into it. So if you have like a sensitivity to like a lot of bright colors and like a lot of like quick movements, I would go into these movies cautiously. But if you don't, they're perfect. The second one, I do really enjoy the storyline for it. I love that we're getting to see more of Gwen and her mentality going into this, because we know at her character in Spider-Verse that she's gone through some stuff already. She's already had her canon events. She's already had her issues.
Her death.
Her death.
Friend death, yeah.
So we know that going into Across the Spider-Verse, and to actually see more of it and to see the relationship with her and her dad break down and start to rebuild, it's really it's bittersweet. And then you get the addition of Mayday. I lost my mind for Mayday. She's so cute. And Hobie. So, you weren't really a fan of Hobie.
I like Hobie as a character. I literally couldn't understand what he was saying in theater, and I heard that was a big issue across a lot of theaters, is the audio was weirdly mixed for Hobie to where his vocals were lower than the music, and it was just not a clear recording. I know eventually the re-released, like they gave theaters a better audio. I think ours hadn't gotten the better audio yet.
It had because I could understand it.
I
clearly.
could not understand Hobie.
I think this is where my history with theater and choir comes in handy.
Okay.
Because you have to learn to be able to listen to everything going on around you and pick up on like the minute details. So it made being able to decipher what Hobie was saying a lot easier for me. I do understand the complaints, though. Like, I'm not like begrudging anybody their complaints. I'm not being like, no, you're wrong. Just, I get it. I get when people are upset. I still really enjoy Hobie because he's the exact type of character that I love. He is that quick-witted, snarky,
against the man.
I love it.
Anarchy.
Honestly, it's... If anybody watching these videos, has seen the show Gilmore Girls, it is Jess if he were Spider-Man.
Fair enough.
And Jess is my favorite character. Well, one of my favorite characters. So, you have that combo. I even do enjoy Oscar Isaac voicing a villain. Like, he's
good as a villain.
He's good as a villain. Like, I know the spot is going to take more precedence in the next one as, like, the main villain, but the fact that you have one of the Spider-Men kind of showing, okay, not all of these are going to be squeaky clean, ready to go, your typical Spider-Man. This one's got some darkness to him, and I really enjoy that. Also, the explanation of why all the Spider-Man stories are so similar, but are still able to hold their own with the introduction of canon events. So, yeah, I love the Spider-Verse movies. I can't wait for the next one. I understand why you're not a huge fan of the second one. I know it's because it feels like an unfinished story. For me, I feel like it cut off at the exact right moment. It was, for me, it brought me back to, like, when Deathly Hallows Part 1 came out, and it ends with Voldemort hovering over Dumbledore's face in his grave. And it gave me that exact same feeling, that exact same chills down my spine. I walked out of that theater so energized and just ready for the next one. But also, like, I can wait. I don't have to have the next one right now. The anticipation of the next one is part of what's building the excitement for me.
Yeah. So, the next is Spike and Mike's Classic Festival of Animation. So this is
that one.
Yeah. So this is Spike and Mike is a animation festival. I don't know if it's still ongoing, but it was ongoing from, like, I think the 90s through at least the early 2000s, if not 2010s. Again, they may still be ongoing. But anyways, so they've got a couple of collections, and this is like their classic one. So every film festival, they have an animation film festival, and these are like the classic ones. So we've got like Bambi Meets Godzilla. I think we've got one of the Don Hertzfeld ones in here. And it's just a bunch of shorts by animation companies, animators. I think one of these is like the person or company that would eventually go on to make Mary and Max. It just has the same art style and feel. So that may be it. But so the thing that Shelby is talking about is there's this one short. It's just some classical music being played over as like a dinner table gets set, and like it's just there's no humans or anything. It's just the chairs and the forks and everything. They're not even like it's not like Beauty and the Beast where they have like faces or anything. It's just chairs and forks and utensils kind of moving in tune with the music as the table's being set. And somehow that really creeped you out.
It did. No, we did not enjoy that. The we that is just me did not enjoy that.
Scooby-Doo meets Courage the Cowardly Dog. How did it take until like the 2020s for this to be made? Like, seriously, this was like something every 90s kid was screaming to be made as soon as like that show aired.
I know, right?
And it did, honestly, it did it perfectly. I still don't understand why there's a rap song in it. That's just kind of weird. It's Eustace rapping, and I just don't care for it. They always, for some odd reason, in some of these family films, if there's an old man,
he's got to rap.
He's got to rap, and I don't understand why they make an old man rap. It's never funny, and the song is never good.
Okay, to be fair, the absurdity of it in this with the big Eustace does make it kind of funny.
I do like that they still keep the grotesqueness of the Courage
Yes.
style to it. They don't, dumb it down or anything because it's the Scooby-Doo. It really is that creepy style that you're used to if you're a fan of Courage the Cowardly Dog. They also do a few homages to past villains and stuff there, and of course the computer is back, and it's really cool, the computer talking with Velma, because that was just kind of one of those things that every kid of those two kind of probably wrote fan fiction about, or at least thought about, like, oh, how would they interact. So animation is done really well.
So one thing for people who are watching this, let us know which Courage villain creeped you out the most growing up. Because from what I've noticed, a lot of us have the same answer. And it's the blonde-headed dude.
Oh, that says naughty?
Yes.
Naughty.
It's something in the way he says that. I've noticed pretty much every woman I know that grew up with Courage. That dude wigged us out as kids, still wigs us out as adults.
I think mine is the fox. Like, he just the fox with like glasses, just because underneath the glasses are like these really weird eyes.
Yeah.
I think that's one that kind of creeped me out. It was more the vibe of the show that creeped me out than the villains themselves. Like, it was just the, literally being in the middle of nowhere. It always took place most of the time at night, and Eustace and Marion can't understand Courage, and Courage, it can't really. Sometimes he can talk, sometimes he can't. It's weird. Sometimes he speaks like perfect English, and other times he can just kind of do like what Scooby-Doo does, where it's just kind of growls and stuff. So especially growing up in a place for a while that was like our house was like the first house on a cul-de-sac, and it was like just dirt and trees and forest for like miles around, and because it was still new, they hadn't even put up light posts yet, so at night it got dark. So it definitely was something that like resonated with me.
But yeah, I really do enjoy the combining of the two, of Scooby-Doo and Courage. Scooby-Doo's never really gone out of style.
No, he hasn't. He's just evolved with the times.
Yeah. I will say peak Scooby-Doo is like late 90s, early 2000s Scooby-Doo.
Which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
Alright. Summer Wars. So this is I believe this is directed by the same person that directed the first couple Digimon movies, and it kind of has the same plot. So it's about a teen during the summertime trying to help battle this virus in a computer software by using his digital avatar, and it's like a slice of life movie for the outside world, but on the inside world it's like a sci-fi battle. It pretty much is Digimon, just without the Digimon coat of paint on it. And the virus is hacking into people's phones, computers, into like stuff like firearms and stuff. I think eventually at one point it's almost about to like get into some like warheads and stuff. So they save the day, and everything goes back to normal. But it was kind of funny. Like, one of the big things is him trying to find like internet in this like secluded area, and this is back, I think, when you still had like LAN wires to connect to the internet. So it was like, it's really hard for him to try to find someplace that has an internet connection. So it was interesting. I know you weren't a big fan, but I don't think you remember it, because
I don't remember much of it. I do remember not liking the family in it. Like, I remember they really irked me. They made it really hard for you to want to root for them. And I'm not a big fan of movies where they make it so hard for you to root for the protagonist. Like, even movies where the protagonist ends up actually being kind of a bad guy, they still do it. They still try and make you at least feel bad for him. This one, I They just made me angry.
Yeah, I don't know why, because I'm like, I don't know if you're thinking the same movie or not. Anyways, Super Mario Brothers, the movie. Yeah, this is like Illumination's best film ever.
Yeah.
I really don't have anything to say. It's great as a Mario film. It's great as an animated film. It pays homage to almost every single Mario thing. So even if you're a person that grew up with the Wii or the Switch, or you're somebody that grew up with the NES or SNES or Game Boy games, you're gonna recognize something about this movie, if not just the Mario theme in general. Do you want to add anything to that?
What was fun when we went to see it is I got to give you a proud husband moment in the middle of the theater.
Oh yeah. So she's not. So just preference this. I'll let her continue. She's not a big video game person. She will watch me play video games from time to time, but sometimes I don't know when she's watching me and when she's just like doing her own projects and stuff.
Okay, so I definitely lean more towards like crafting in terms of hobbies. I cross stitch. I do coloring books. For me, video games get a little too stressful, so I don't like playing video games all that often unless they're like stuff like Mario Party. But while we're watching it and you get like your first scene with Luigi alone, I just kind of lean over to him and was like, is this supposed to be referencing Luigi's Mansion? And he got really excited by the fact that I recognized that.
And she remembered the name of the game.
Because I don't really play video games all that often.
Speaking of anime movies that were awesome last year, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I think this is my favorite TMNT film. I really like all the villains they show that they don't. Usually it's always Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady, sure. But the rest of the villains just kind of stay on the television shows and never make it to the big screen. So it's really cool seeing, of course, Bebop and Rocksteady, but other ones like Mondo Gecko show up, and I guess he's supposed to be like Baxter Stockman's when he's the Fly, Superfly. A really awesome soundtrack, really awesome animation. I like how both the Ninja Turtles and April O'Neil are teenagers and not. They're supposed to be teenagers and she's like a full-grown adult. That always felt weird. And then also they actually got teenagers to voice the roles, or at least to voice the 4 Ninja Turtles, so they actually sound like kids and like teenagers, not like adults trying to act like teenagers. I know, as you said before, you're not a big TMNT fan. I did show this movie to you. I know this is one of those movies where it has a weird art style that does mess with your stigmatism, so you couldn't really focus much on it.
So, since I couldn't really focus on the movie, it also took away some of the dislike for Ninja Turtles, because part of it is the whole aesthetic of them. I'm not a huge fan of it.
Fair enough.
So, because I wasn't able to focus on the visuals going on, I was really just listening to the audio. It is so cute. I do really enjoy the voice acting. That was all really well done. I also really enjoy that they go most of the way through no diggity.
Right?
So we're watching this movie, and all of a sudden I start hearing no diggity, and I'm just like, yes!
Yeah, this has, as I said, an awesome soundtrack. I'm not going to say much about Town Called Pender because I've literally done like 2, maybe 3 videos about this movie. I've done a classic movie review. Go check that out. It was talked about in my underrated anime movies. Go check that out. I think I reviewed it way before in the past as well. So, yeah. Great animated film. Your thoughts on it? Because I have shown this film to you.
It is really cute, but this is one of the movies where we realize something about me. Mm-hmm. If we're watching a movie in a foreign language, I will go to sleep. Okay.
Yeah, so this isn't a French... It is a French film. It is in French. They have not dubbed it. It is only subbed. They did make a show, and I think the show is dubbed. And I know there's a sequel movie. I haven't checked that out yet. I don't know if that is dubbed or not, but the show did show up on Nickelodeon, and they did dub that. So it's interesting they dubbed the show, but they never dubbed the movie.
Yeah. Like, I remember you showing it to me. Because did you show it to me the same night that we went to Six Flags?
I don't remember when I showed it to you.
I remember you showing it to me. I also remember me kind of dozing because of the whole, if I'm watching something in a foreign language, I'm going to go to sleep unless it's Spanish.
So next film, I don't think I've shown you this one. If I have, I don't remember showing it to you. So if you don't remember it, it's fine. Toys in the Attic. It's another film I've talked about before in the past, but I'll talk about it a bit more now. So it is Toys in the Attic. It's stop motion. They're all kind of like, instead of clay, they're all made out of like actual objects you would find around a house or around an attic, just like stuffed animals and little bits and bobs and knickknacks and doodads. It's a pretty basic story. The Buttercup female character gets kidnapped, and it's up to the other toys to go and rescue her. It does do some really cool things where what they use to make some of the scenes happen as far as objects go, like water is cloth, is blue cloth, and an airplane is like the canister part of the vacuum. So it's really cool in that aspect there. Next film.
Next one is Wallace and Gromit: Curse of the Were-Rabbit. So I love this. It's a perfect Halloween movie. It's so freaking cute. It's Wallace and Gromit. So if you like Wallace and Gromit, you're really going to enjoy this. For me, I really enjoy just the look of the Were-Rabbit. He's so cute. I want to hug him.
I would say, like you were talking about with the Gruffalo, this is another film that if your kid is getting it just really young, but is still getting into those big monster type of movies, this is definitely one to show them, because it's not as, it's got some dark themes to it, but it's not a scary movie. It's very much played up for laughs anytime the Were-Rabbit is on screen there, and it's if you like Wallace and Gromit, you're gonna like this film.
I would honestly say start with the Gruffalo, and then the very next one should be this one. Because where the Gruffalo, it's, told as it's a story being told. It takes away some of the creepiness to it because, it's just a story. Whereas the way this one's done, it's supposed to be, actually happening within the Wallace and Gromit world. So it brings up the stakes a little.
Yeah. So the next film I know you haven't seen.
No.
This is one I didn't even grow up with. I just remember seeing advertisements for it on some of my other DVDs that I own. So I finally did get around to buying it and watching it just a couple years back. So it's and I've only seen it the one time, so it's not so fresh in my mind yet. But it does pretty much just take the plot of it's called The Wonderful Galaxy of Oz, and it really just does take the plot of Wizard of Oz and puts it in space. From what I've done research on, apparently this is actually a television show, and then they just kind of, when they, I guess, took it over to America, they edited it down into a film. How they did that, I'll never know. I haven't checked out the film, but it is definitely 80s anime style. So if you like that, then definitely check that out. If you like Wizard of Oz, the story plot, check it out. And now our last film, which I'll let you talk and then I'll close out.
All right. So our last one is Yellow Submarine. It is the Beatles. It's, we all live in a yellow submarine. So, honestly, if you enjoy the Beatles, you're going to enjoy this movie. If you don't enjoy the Beatles, don't watch it. Because it's trippy. It's trippy. It is one that I have to be careful when I watch it, because it is another one that will mess with your eyes. Because it has a lot of the moving colors and everything. Usually, if I'm going to watch Yellow Submarine, I take an Advil before I watch it.
Yeah, so I agree. If you enjoy the Beatles music, because it uses a lot of music,
So much of it.
you're gonna enjoy this. If you do not like it, don't watch it. Because it's just gonna be the Beatles being the Beatles, and it's I mean, they're not voicing them. They got voice actors to voice the titular characters, but it sounds almost exactly like them. Um, and it's just kind of a plot of the Blue Meanies have taken over this world, and it's up to the Beatles to rescue them. And they all travel in the Yellow Submarine, and they sing the song, and it's a great fun time. It was, of course, made in the '70s, so the animation style is a bit weird, bit simplistic, but at the same time not, and a bit choppy as well because it's not one of the big ones. But that's going to be it for this episode. Love to hear anybody's thoughts on any of the movies we've discussed here today. And tune in next month where we're going to be talking about comedy films. We'll be talking about a couple of them, like just to name a few, is going to be like Barbie and
Mean Girls.
Barbie, Mean Girls,
Evolution. The Duff.
The Duff, and many more. So come back next month to hear us talk about comedic movies. Until next time, thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.